Good morning, everybody. Hello, all the fellow grounded travelers out there and quarantine travelers.
What is up?
Here it is. Sorry.
There we go. Alright, now I can see myself.
Oh, one moment, please. We have to add the chat in here. Somehow that didn't... You can start. Sorry, just...
Hi, people. How's everybody doing?
Sorry about that, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Good morning, Darian from Jeremy Travel Personal Guide. Good morning, Galvanting Gals. Alan A., hello. Great to have everybody on. Malcolm Hogan, thanks for joining again, all the way from New Zealand. I know it's so early there, so thank you so much. Mark Finley, hi. Great to see you. And Terry Finley, hopefully, too. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm drinking some breakfast tea this morning with almond milk. And what are you drinking?
Coffee.
Coffee, cool. Hey, Michael Mon, great to have you back. And so Derek and I are planning on talking a little bit this morning about the travel apps and tools that we like to use when planning and when traveling. So hopefully we can jump into that in a bit, but just wanted to thank you all for coming back, saying hi as much as possible during the week. We have these live streams on Thursdays and Sundays, and we are in a state that is quarantining at least until the end of May now, as of this week. Yep. So we're planning on keeping these twice a week times, just so we can connect with all of you and stay connected to the world. Hope everyone's cool with that.
You need to run and find your phone.
I do. I need to run and find my missing cell phone so we can actually talk about apps. But Derek is going to take it away with his... what's really funny is everybody's been talking about Derek's fashion, which is really...
Or lack thereof.
A joke. But, I love you.
Ouch.
Totally kidding.
Ouch, wow.
But I'll be right back. But Derek's looking very fashionable.
You buy my clothes, so that's on you. I'm wearing red pants, always fun. So Malcolm, you're going back to work tomorrow. That's cool. Good luck. Have fun with that. Hopefully everything goes well. Off to a good start. Okay, so I don't know what we're going to talk about. So I know that Eliz wants to talk about, travel apps and different tools and tips and tricks, which is why she needs to find her phone so she can actually pull up and show you guys what we use. Just that's kind of our throughput line for the day, kind of like how we've done road trips and how to book accommodations and different things like that. So if anybody has any cool tips and tricks that they use when they plan trips or when they go on trips, please start listing those out in the feed, because we'd love to hear what all you other veteran travelers have to say about things. I know we plan to talk about a number of different things, whether it's entertainment apps, translation apps, things that kind of like utilities to help get around, whether that's maps and translation apps and all those good things, language, all that. So, let us know what you guys use in the comments, and that way we can talk about it.
Ooh, are we
She's
switching
back.
Seats?
No.
Hi.
Well, unless, that seat is shorter. So
this makes us look a little bit more accurate towards our height difference in real life. Although my tea is all the way on your side, so this could be fun.
Yeah, I think we should trade back.
You wanna?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about the awkwardness real quick. We're gonna do a little musical chairs. All right. Cool. So, I have my phone now, everybody. So we are good to talk about travel apps once we settle in. Oh, hey Julia, from Tucson. And did I miss anyone? It looks like everybody else is kind of the same.
Graham. Graham's on.
Graham, all the way from England. Thanks so much for joining.
Welcome, sir. And
Hi,
Rachel.
Oh, we've got such a great crew today. I'm really pumped. Hope everybody's having a great weekend so far. Happy Sunday. It's finally sunny here in Chicago. It has literally been raining nonstop, foggy, misting. It kind of rained all day yesterday. So.
The flowers look great though today because they got nice and fed last night.
Yeah, Derek's been a gardener during quarantine, which I don't know if we've talked much about. He mentioned it, that he started growing some cilantro and basil from seed in one of these chats.
They're popping up.
Yeah, and then he's been also gardening in the front and the back. We don't really have a yard because we live in a city. We live in Chicago, but we have some planting options.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not really. It's not like I'm growing like vegetables. I'm not like.
Well, we technically are growing.
Well, we have a pepper
plant.
We're probably gonna buy some tomato plants.
We might grow vegetables. We'll see how that goes.
As well as some like chicken wire or something to keep the squirrels and other critters out of them.
Yeah, are you guys doing any
Funds
gardening?
of urban.
Keep us
urban
posted
gardening.
on that. Graham is saying that it is a scorcher in the UK. Yeah, I've actually heard about that. Heard that you guys are getting some really hot temperatures, unseasonably warm. So hopefully that means you can go outside and like lay in the sun and enjoy the weather too a little bit. But gardening would be easy in the sunshine, I'm sure.
I do like that Michael Mon said, "Thanks for clarifying that it's Sunday. The days blur together, and I'm never really sure what day it is anymore."
Happy to help.
Same.
I was actually talking with Rachel earlier this week about how it's really nice that Derek and I have these live streams because it gives us something to kind of like mark our calendar for, if you will, like
change out of our pajamas.
Change out of
or
our
something.
my
Nice.
yoga pants.
I haven't worn a button-down shirt in quite a while.
Hi, Claus. Thanks so much for joining. And welcome, Ronnie Dove. Oh, wow. We have a great
Nice.
crew today. So
Welcome, everybody.
Hope everybody's excited to talk about travel apps and tools. Kind of our go-to things that we use for planning trips and while we're taking trips. And we're going to make it really broad and talk about things you can use for road trips, too, because let's face it, road trips are likely going to be the first things that we are all looking at in 2020. And as of right now, even where we live right here in Chicago, we're not opening up really anytime soon, even for those. So I know that I think I was overhearing while I was looking for my phone that Malcolm is going back to work.
Yep.
So certain countries and locations, even states in the U.S., are thinking about making those types of changes, and others are holding back. So we wanted to make this really broad and helpful to everybody. We want to hear everybody else's tips as well. So I wrote down some notes, and Derek, I guess, is adding to them real quick. But I think we have quorum now, so we can dive right into this topic. So, all right. And also, have we missed anybody? I just want to make sure we said hi. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think that's everybody.
Oh, and Julia says that they bought cilantro, basil, and mint, and it's in the kitchen window. Oh, good. So we can grow it together, because those are the three that we have.
Yeah, we started a bunch of basil and cilantro from seed, and then we bought 3 plants from Home Depot for mint.
Yes.
Because we couldn't find, for the life of us, we could not find any mint seeds. I don't know what's
There's
going on with
peppermint and spearmint seeds,
Yeah.
but not sweet mint, and that's our typical go-to for like the types of things that we like to use mint for.
Mint
with
water,
recipes. Yeah,
stuff like that.
mint water,
Cocktails.
And Derek, the reason why we're super excited about cilantro is Derek is really good at making guacamole and salsa. The Mexican side of his family is really, they're good cooks and have great salsa recipes. So,
Or if you're just looking to
the mint is for mojitos.
Yeah.
And I love cucumber drinks of all sorts. We're not growing cucumbers.
That's why we like basil too, because then you can do like a cucumber basil bash or whatever, smash.
Yeah.
But, no, what I was gonna say though was that cilantro is also really good if you just want to like kick up like store-bought salsa a notch. Like take a bunch of cilantro, dice it up, and mix that in. It's gonna like make your like store-bought salsa like way better.
Yeah.
Tastes a little bit more authentic. So.
Okay, so back to diving into our first thing. So,
and real quick, Malcolm is saying keep mint in a planter so it doesn't go wild in the garden. So we don't really have a garden. We live in the city, Malcolm. So our gardening is kind of kept to like
planters
anyway. So hopefully it'll be okay. I think we might have to mix our mint with another something. So we'll probably mix it with cilantro since both of them tend to try to take over a garden, and it's going to be kind of a little bit of a battle of the fittest and see which one survives. I don't know.
And we wanted to also like focus on things that could probably sustain themselves if we did happen to take a road trip this summer. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that might be possible. That we could have all of those things kind of outside and dependent on the weather conditions.
Yeah.
That they would still live. So that's why we were pretty choiceful about what we brought into our domain.
Yep. We'll see. They might all die.
Yeah.
But they're cheap. So I guess if we wanted to get into the topic of the day, we've got a couple of people that have brought in a few ideas. So Graham actually mentions one of your go-to apps, which is TripIt.
Yes. So let's start with planning. When it comes to planning, I really like to have apps that can talk to each other first and foremost, which means I typically use Google for my email and my calendar and stuff like that. So what I really liked about the TripIt app specifically is that everything that I input into TripIt goes straight into my Google Calendar if I connect the two. So what is terrific is that we don't have to have printouts of an itinerary, which is funny because I know a lot of people still love to do that, and especially people who maybe are teachers and are very used to that kind of format for classroom work and stuff like that. And I've seen even people just this year who were already on their honeymoon in like January using printouts of like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do on the honeymoon each day, here's where we're staying, that sort of thing. And it is good to have a hard copy of that kind of thing, so that way if God forbid you lose your phone or something like that, then you have, or like Derek always doesn't write down the address to the hotel, and when you fill out a customs card, you have to say like where you're staying. So that's nice to have the hard copies for those sorts of things. That being said, I think TripIt is fantastic. It's the best app I've tried when it comes to those sorts of planning tools where you can plug in your flight information and like everything ports into there, whether it's your confirmation code, the times, and then TripIt automatically adjusts the time of your flight if there is a change to it. So basically, like
it dynamically tracks things for
precisely
you, as long as they're plugged into it already.
Precisely. So like let's say your flight's delayed 2 hours, they're going, like TripIt will automatically kind of push that. God bless you. Will automatically push that later in your calendar.
Sneezy.
It's springtime. Anyway, so love that part of it. With hotels, again, they'll have your confirmation codes in there, the price that you paid for the hotel, like what the hotel address is, what type of room you booked, and you can input all of those things in advance, so that way it's not necessarily like something you have to dig up, and dig through all of your emails when you arrive and be like, oh my gosh, what did I book? That's come in handy for us a lot, actually. Surprisingly, when somebody asks us at a front desk, like, oh, well, what did you book breakfast, or what type of room did you book or something, then we say, let me just open TripIt real quick. So it's a really great tool, and I think you could really easily use it for road trips too, especially with day-to-day planning, and you can even input like gas, stop for gas at this place or something like that.
Yes. Oh. Now I'm a moderator too.
Oh, good. Sorry, Derek, I never made you a moderator. I made so many others. Basically, all those folks are moderators that I did last Thursday, just in case some troll pops on. She basically went trigger happy
and just started making everybody moderators. So you guys can all block each other. It's great.
We fall behind on the chats, and we admit that. And so if a troll popped on and started saying inappropriate things, we were hoping that you guys could take the reins if that ever happens. Thankfully, we've been pretty good about it, though.
Yeah, no trolls yet. Katie Smith,
hey,
welcome.
Katie, great to see you.
How you doing?
Anyway, so those are definitely my two top tools for planning trips. Oh, sorry. I think so. We talked about TripIt, and then I mentioned Google, but specifically, I didn't even say the second one. I love to use Google Flights to do like a search of all of the different flight options for going somewhere, especially if it's a brand new destination. I'm not even sure what airlines fly to those places. And specifically, I'll search, like, let's say I want to go to, I don't know, Prague, and I don't know what airlines from the U.S. fly there, or code shares or something like that, or the times. I'll use Google Flight Tools to the Google Flight tool to really hone in on what the options are, and then actually book with the airline specifically. So we really like to be able to. That's funny.
Oh, that was all for review. That's weird.
We really like to be able to, book directly with the specific airline, so that way if there's anything that ever happens, like if you have to cancel the trip, or if they cancel a flight or something like that. There's been a lot of stories, even with the coronavirus outbreak, about issues with dealing with, the aggregators of the world. I don't want to name any right now.
Well, it's harder always to change your stuff. If you have issues, say you want to change last second your hotel booking, and this was before coronavirus or anything else, right? It was always easier to make those changes at the hotel if you had booked directly than rather having booked through bookings.com or hotels.com or any of the others, right? Because then you have to go through them to make any changes to your reservation.
And we had a situation once where we were flying to France, and we had booked with Delta, but it was an Air France flight, and the flight kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. It finally canceled at like 3:30 in the morning, and most of the people were trying to call customer service at, like, the Expedias, the Travelocities of the world, that sort of thing, and we just called Delta, and were able to get through pretty quick because of the time of day. So
well, it's not only that; it was that we've booked through Delta, and a lot of other people booked through through Air France, and so they were trying to actually rebook through Air France, and I think we just had better luck with Delta as well. But yeah, so I mean, we do like it though. Also, from while we like to book through American or Delta whenever possible, we also like using Google Flights just to figure out if there's like a significantly cheaper flight out there, because it's not worth getting the miles on American or whatever if you're paying twice as much on an expensive ticket. So we'll do that, and so we've flown to like Europe on Emirates before as an example, because it was so cheap to get there that it wasn't worth taking one of the American flights.
Exactly. And so Graham's weighing in. He's saying that he uses Skyscanner as well, which we have dabbled with.
It's good for keeping track of your prices as well, right?
I believe so. And he says, also, I think Expedia is pretty good in the UK, but I agree. I usually use those just to hunt for prices and then book directly. Totally. Yeah. And they have a really great purpose. And what's interesting about Expedia that I can weigh in on, having an digital advertising background in my career, is Expedia makes money not only through bookings, but of course through running ads that a lot of the Delta.com and AA.com, those don't run ads, and so it's not that big of a concern for me with using their tool and then booking directly.
Yeah, and at like a more local type of hotel, like a smaller hotel, you can find the price on like a Bookings or whatever, and then you can try calling them directly to see if they'll match the price. Maybe you wouldn't get it if you booked it online, but if you call them directly and say, listen, I'm seeing the price for your hotel on Expedia at X, can you match that? Maybe you'll get lucky and they'll be able to, and whatnot.
And I to piggyback on that, because of the way that I travel, which I know most of you don't, so I'll try to be really quick, because of the fact that I fly standby a lot in normal times, I will maybe book a hotel for the first couple days that I'm at a destination and leave a little bit of flexibility towards the end and try to book with like a hotels tonight or something later on. That being said, if I'm able to find a really good deal when I book that hotel, the first hotel, I can go up to the front counter and say, hey, is there a way to just extend the rate that I'm already paying, stay in the same room that I'm already in, if it happens to be available moving forward into the next day or two. And I have had really good luck with that. And so perhaps like the reason why I wouldn't go online and just book my room to continue is because maybe the price went up. But once I'm there, I can talk to the front desk and we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, and Malcolm actually has a pretty interesting thing. He says that he books directly with airlines and uses Wikipedia to find who flies to each airport. I've never heard that before.
Oh, really?
So if Wikipedia has that information, I might need to start using that. That's pretty cool.
I didn't know that Wikipedia did.
I use Wikipedia for
either.
everything else. So.
Yeah, Wikipedia is great. But
unless
also,
he means Expedia and maybe it
maybe
auto-corrected. But if you mean Wikipedia, that's pretty cool.
a lot of airports actually have like which airlines fly and the exact times and stuff like that on the airport website itself too. So if you're going to a smaller airport, maybe in a city that's 1 million people or less, I have found that can be really helpful to just go to, you know, the airport itself and figure out, okay, well, which are the airlines that fly. We had a friend that got married in the Caribbean. What was it, St. Lucia?
Yeah.
We ended up not going to that wedding, unfortunately, but it was really the most helpful thing was to actually go onto the airport's website itself and figure out which airlines flew, because none of the American, like, typical domestic flights flew there. I think it was just like Caribbean Air, and so it was just hard to track that until we actually used that.
Yeah. And I guess a couple other things just around planning for different tools that we like, and something that we had found on another YouTuber, I can't remember whose YouTube it was, but she was basically talking about a way that she had figured out to like get massively discounted rooms on vacation, and was using hotels.com for their
Hotwire.
It was Hotwire?
Yeah.
Hotwire?
Hotwire.
Wire.
HOTWIRE.com.
But basically, the way that they do it is that they do like daily deals in locations where it's like a hot deal or something like that, I think they call it. And then she'll go on there and she'll try to like back into what hotel it is by looking at the ratings. And basically by doing that, you can kind of narrow down and figure out what exactly the hotel is that the deal is for. Because they don't tell you what the hotel is, they just tell you general location within like a city, and then you have to book it.
They'll give you the TripAdvisor rating.
And they give you the TripAdvisor rating. So you go on Hotwire, you find the deal, you see if you think the deal is within your price range, and then you go on TripAdvisor and you can like kind of back into what exact hotel that is. That's actually how we booked our hotel
In
Amsterdam, and it happened to be the one that we wanted to book,
Yeah.
and somehow the day that we left to go to Amsterdam, that was the hot deal of the day. I don't know how that happened.
Well, in bigger
it was
cities
awesome.
too, they'll have many hot deals. So that's really cool, where you can say, oh, I want to book a 3-star hotel or 3-star and up hotel or something like that. And they might actually have, especially last minute, like 5 options to choose from. So then when you cross-check the reviews against the TripAdvisor reviews to see, you know, it'll say like, okay, so this is 3.5 stars for room and 4.5 stars for service. Like you can really figure out pretty easily once you try that tip exactly what hotel you're going to book, so you can save a ton of money.
And then you hit book, and then it reveals, and then we're like, oh my god, it was the one we wanted.
Yeah, there's confetti on the screen.
Yeah,
it's kind of silly.
It's fun. But that's actually a good option. You know, if you're looking at, you know, trying to book a nice hotel at a discounted rate, that's a great way to do it, using Hotwire.
Especially last minute.
And while, you know, that kind of goes against what we're talking about with booking directly, you know, if you're looking for a highly, highly discounted rate, that might be a good way to do it.
Yeah. So the Gallivanting Gals are asking a great question. Do we use a VPN? They say, I've found that setting your location to a different country can sometimes give you a better price. We did that for Scandinavia, which is the trip that we were on when this all hit. Yes. So
we don't.
We've used incognito mode, and we haven't tried booking with a VPN. We used a VPN for several months after we went to, or during and after we went to China. So that's actually a really great tip. And one thing that we were able to do is when Derek was studying abroad in Spain, we were able to book a hotel in Spain for much cheaper than the English language version of the offer by just booking it in Spanish, because we were able to understand that part of the website as well.
When I was in Spain?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was also because I was literally in Spain, and that's what Gallivanting Gals is actually talking about. Like, incognito is very different than using a VPN, because incognito, they still know what country you're coming from. So when you do incognito, they still know, oh, you're in the United States. And so a lot of hotels will give higher pricing to people coming from the United States to Mexico, for example. Whereas if you're in Mexico booking in Mexico, you'll get likely a lower price. So by using a VPN and going from using that as a way to do it, you can get a much better price, which we don't do because we don't pay for an ongoing VPN. But that is something that we would probably think about if we were doing a longer trip, especially in a high-cost place like Scandinavia. Mm-hmm. I think that would make a lot of sense.
And VPNs are beneficial in another way, too. If you really like to be able to stay tuned to your favorite shows, for example, and have access to Hulu and Netflix, the American versions when you're abroad, then you can say,
sometimes
I am in the U.S. now, and so I can watch those shows, because some of those are not available in other countries.
That may or may not work. That's been hit or miss for me personally. I've tried doing that, and it hasn't worked before.
Through the VPN?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, maybe.
But yeah.
Although I do like sometimes getting onto Netflix in Europe and seeing like what you have available in like Europe. I think they have like some like the CBS shows and stuff like that. So I've been abroad before and kind of like started binging shows that I then don't have access to when I come back.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating but kind of cool to see different stuff.
So the gals are saying that it works for watching sports too, which
nice.
If you're abroad and you want to keep up with your sports teams, that makes total sense.
So I guess we're talking about entertainment, so we can move on to entertainment.
Yeah, we are going to have another section talking about entertainment, so this is a good segue.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it? That's like your favorite one.
I mean, my recommendation to people when they go on trips is always like, despite, no matter what is going on with your airline, if you have like, in-seat entertainment or the ability to stream it on your, device, I always recommend people download some stuff. If you have Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever, you have access to being able to download things on your smartphone, your tablet, PC, whatever. So I would recommend always like having a few things, kind of ready to go, so that if for whatever reason you're on a long flight and you want to watch something, if the entertainment's not working for whatever reason, you have a backup. That can be helpful. Or if you're kind of like stuck indoors because like your other half is like trying to sleep off some jet lag, you have something to watch, things like that. So for us, that usually means that we're downloading things on, we're the worst cord cutters because we have Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Spotify. We probably pay more now than we did when we had a cable package, but hey, the beauty is you get to take it with you when you go. So we'll download things on all of those so we have access to our favorite shows and whatnot, as well as having a bunch of podcasts. And I say podcasts because I'm a huge podcast junkie. I'm like a major proponent of it.
And they're great for road trips.
They're great for road trips. They're great for flights. It's good when you and your partner, if you're traveling with a friend or a partner or whatever, have like similar tastes. So we listen to a lot of different stuff, but then we have a couple of things that we like to listen to together, which is a lot of fun. My brother and me, I always kind of talk about that one on different things, but
it's hilarious.
Highly recommend it if you haven't ever seen it. It's the McElroy brothers.
Not seen it, listen to it.
Listen to it.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast, advice show for the modern era. It's great. But, that's always fun. And then also there's a lot of podcasts that delve into history on location. So if we're going to a foreign country or whatever, I'll try to find some sort of podcast that delves into a little bit of the history of that location. So when we were going to Amsterdam, for instance, I found the History of the Netherlands podcast, which is both actually pretty funny and informative, kind of spanning the whole history of the Netherlands. I don't know where they're up to right now. I think I haven't caught all the way up yet. I kept listening to it when we got back even. But it's really interesting stuff. And I find that I get a lot more out of a location when I have a little bit of that background on history and culture. So finding podcasts is a good free way to kind of get that information. And I know Rick Steves, for instance, has a ton of podcast content out there on different locations. So if you're going to Europe, that's a great way to do it.
It's kind of a difference, and you can find some great resources on his website that are audio-based. So he does a podcast that also airs on public radio in the U.S. I think it's maybe like once a week or couple times a month sort of thing. And then he actually has audio guides that you can download. And that's in a separate app from like your podcast app, but they can get really specific into one place. So we really found that helpful actually when we went to Wales, because there's not a ton, especially back then, there was not a ton of content about Wales. And so having his audio guide to navigate us around was great.
Yep.
So Katie Smith was saying, I love podcasts too. Do you have any favorite travel ones? So we do. But there's tons that we haven't even had a chance to listen to as well out there. So we can say the ones that we have listened to. So we haven't followed it as much recently, but we've historically done Extra Pack of Peanuts.
EPOP.
Yeah. And
Heather and what's his name? Oh god.
Travis and Heather. And then I think there's a France one that before we went to France we listened to a lot. Let me try to pull that up. But you're the podcast.
I mean, I don't do as many of the travel podcasts. My podcasts tend to kind of run into like history, a little bit of travel. I do like some of the personal finance podcasts that are out there. There's some pretty good ones.
So I've listened to
much less dry than you would expect.
Join Us in France, and then so that one's just French things, but that's helped me navigate around France a little bit on some of my more recent trips. And then I've also listened to Amateur Traveler, which I appreciate because they have episodes on like more remote destinations and like a little bit less of the hot spots. So I think we downloaded before we went to Maine a couple of years ago a few of those to listen to in the 6-hour road trip up, just about like Acadia National Park, that sort of thing. And because there's so many episodes, you can kind of search. I think we did that for China too. I think they had a few episodes about
and real quick, Bonnie, welcome. Thanks for joining us, Bonnie. And James, thanks for joining us.
Hi, James. Great to see you both.
We've been just talking about podcasts and entertainment now for a little bit, but
we've been talking about like travel apps and what to download on your phone before a road trip or for a bigger trip, and then also so far we've also talked about the tools that we like for planning trips too. Yep.
Karen Mack, welcome.
Hey, Karen.
Hey. But so Gallivanting Gals also mentioned that they like Zero to Travel, which I agree. That's a really good one as well. And that's an American who lives in somewhere in Scandinavia. Norway, I think. He's married to a woman from Norway, I want to say. He has a great podcast. And he does a lot of like interviews with other travelers, like Nomadic Matt, I think, has been on there a number of times.
Yes, Norway.
It's pretty cool, and he's actually he's well connected to Travis and Heather from the Extra Pack of Peanuts podcast. I know they do a lot of like collaborations quite often. Michelle, welcome. How you doing? Thanks for joining.
Oh yeah, and just to circle back around, Gallivanting Gals also said Rick Steves has walking tour recordings, which is so true of like even museums and cathedrals and stuff like that. You can just download.
I think we downloaded his for the Louvre.
We did. Yeah.
Which is a good way to do that. So there's so much out there though, so you can kind of find something that fits your personality. If you just want straight facts. If you want a little bit more personality, you can find different things. So, highly recommend the podcast if you haven't done it before. It's a great free method to get, walking towards history, culture, etc. And if you have the opportunity to listen to it before you go, you can get a lot more out of your trip.
Yeah, especially like I can highly recommend that with the France one that I was mentioning before. That was really helpful for me just to hear what the food is that people really enjoy, like kind of the everyday things that maybe the guidebooks wouldn't dive into as much.
Yeah, and it's also fun, like, because you can find like those podcasters or whatever, those personalities who, if you like the same types of things that they like, and they're very authentic and genuine, and obviously not just saying something because they're getting paid to say something, you can find some really cool kind of insider tips that maybe wouldn't even be in a guidebook, because they might be like, oh, I made a friend with a guy at a hostel in Norway and he told me to go to this place and it was awesome and off the beaten path, and so that can be a cool way to find things. And then I guess the last thing on entertainment is if you are flying and whatnot, downloading like whatever airline's app is super important, and making sure that you have that kind of before you get on the plane, because if you're like me, I've definitely scrambled a few times to try to like download things the moment I got onto a plane, and I don't know what's going on, but you always have terrible cell reception on those planes, and like the data is really terrible, so making sure that you have that before you get on the plane is important, so you actually do have access to
the
like
cell
Wi-Fi
reception on tarmacs is comical.
It's
like comically bad. So yeah, don't try to download things right before you take off, even though you might have that 30-minute window that you're like, all right, now I've already sat down, now what do I do? Don't do cell phone downloads. But okay, James Townsend is saying, are there links to some of the podcasts that you were talking about? You know what I'm going to do is, after this video gets published on YouTube, I'll try to go back in, because I usually go back and adjust the thumbnail and the end card and stuff anyway, and I'll try to update the description and put links to all the ones that we've just mentioned into the description part. So I guess come back like later today or tomorrow. And yeah, Derek's going to add some to the chat real quick, but I'll try to make it really organized for everybody, and even link to things like TripIt as well.
And I'll be very unorganized, which will be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. You can keep going.
All right. So let's just catch up on the chat here. Malcolm Hogan is saying Emirates on board is good entertainment. That's great to hear. Emirates just on board is great in general, in my opinion. I've only flown it once, and we flew economy, but it was very opulent compared to a lot of the other types of economy to Europe that we had experienced in the past. So what we had, the route that we flew was JFK to Milan, and then that exact plane was going from Milan to Dubai right after that, and the just decor inside of the plane itself was really nice, and the seats were a little bit cushier than usual, like leather, and they gave you some really good amenities, like the pillows and blankets just felt really nice. I think the bathrooms were wood paneled. I mean, not probably wood, but like fake wood at least. So it was a different experience than certain other economy cross-Atlantic flights that we had experienced. And so it's good to hear that their in-flight entertainment's really strong as well. I think we slept most of that flight because it was a red-eye, so we couldn't speak to that as much. But I think Delta and American and United all have pretty good in-flight entertainment. Which are the bigger U.S. airlines. Even Southwest does too. But if you get on an airplane that's a little bit smaller, or something, or like sometimes I've even been on a flight where my the TV in front of me wasn't working. Having the app downloaded for that airline in advance, you can watch all of their entertainment on your phone, it's just a nice backup option to have if nothing else. Okay. Graham says, have you talked about downloading maps to Google Maps? We're going to get into that next. So the next category that we're going to talk about is navigating, because we have a app that we use on top of Google Maps for navigating. So we'll get into that really, really soon. Bonnie saying to Malcolm, good point, getting lost is how I have found some of the most interesting places. Found Montreal when I got lost in France. I don't know if you're talking about Montreal in Canada, but that'd be a pretty funny joke. Yeah,
that would be a funny joke. I don't think that's what she's referring to.
And then Derek just added some of the lists of the podcasts that we were mentioning. So maps.me, we're about to talk about that real quick. Kindle is great for travel. Oh, I'd like to hear about that a little bit more. If they have some good travel books that you can download and stuff like that.
Could also just mean books while you travel, something to read.
Yeah, actually, real quick, because we were going to move past entertainment, and there are two other things that I should mention. So, because we talked about podcasts, what we haven't talked about is music. So I prefer Spotify, but I know Apple Music pretty much offers the exact same thing.
YouTube has some stuff too, which Graham was talking about.
Yeah, totally. So the reason why I just have had Spotify for almost 10 years now, so it's just what I use. But with the premium version that I have, you can download all of your playlists to your phone and use them in offline mode. So what's been great with not only just being on an airplane, but also being underground in a subway or something like that, I'm able to listen to all of my playlists. So what I like to do, and I mentioned this in my long haul flights essentials video, is create several nap time playlists for red-eye flights and stuff like that. So that way I can put my over-ear headphones on, put my eye mask on, and basically just listen to really calming, soothing music for hours on end. And no commercials or anything like that. So really, really great for being able to listen on an airplane when you're not connected to cell data and stuff like that. Yeah. If you opt for more of the premium versions of Spotify or Apple Music or something like that. But what Gallivanting Gals is also mentioning is that there are typically free versions for all of those as well. And those free versions can be. Sorry, I'll let you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and you can get access to like Amazon Music with your Prime membership. Yeah. You're just missing some of the stuff that you go with Premium, which is what Gallivanting Gals is kind of talking about.
Exactly. So it's a trade-off. Derek actually doesn't subscribe to any of those himself because he prefers to listen to podcasts or something like that.
No, I put my money into like Kindle Unlimited or Audible. I have an Audible membership. I love listening to like audiobooks and stuff. So
yeah.
And I like supporting a lot of the more like independent authors for different things, and a lot of the times the best way to get those is through like a Kindle Unlimited, and that just allows you to read as many books as you want a month for a set price. I don't remember what the price.
I think it's like $14.99
it's like
a month.
$14.99 or something. Like that.
Which is, I mean, it's pricier, but if you're a
How much
power
is your Spotify
reader.
account?
I think it's like $10.99 a month, but it also comes with Hulu. The last thing I want to say is we just downloaded our. So we just got a library card last night. Even though we've lived in Chicago now for a little over 2 years, because we were able to get an e-card online. And what a lot of people don't realize is that you can download.
We didn't realize.
You can download free audiobooks, and you check them out from your library.
Yep.
And you can also download ebooks to your Kindle and stuff like that, and to your phone. But what's really great is we were joking, we saw that all of the Harry Potter books are you're able to borrow as audiobooks from our library for free now that I have a library card. And I was like, oh, well, if we go on a long road trip this summer, like I've been really praying for, we should just listen to back-to-back Harry Potter books. So that's just one more thing I wanted to add. We haven't really tried it out yet, but I think a lot of library systems, even around the world, offer that service.
Yeah.
So.
And yeah, as long as the audio, whoever narrates it, as long as it's a good narrator, I can listen to most things. Like, that's one of the things I love about Audible, is that there's certain narrators that I've found that I just love what they do with voices and using different voices for different characters and stuff like that. So, and it helps as well because I listen to a lot of or read a lot of indie authors, the
Which
the
none of his
editing.
indie authors, of course, read our
Oh
library.
yeah, I can't get access to anything that I
He was
listen
devastated.
to. Well, no, it just shows you why we need to keep our Audible and our Kindle Unlimited subscriptions. But because they're independent, a lot of the editing kind of goes a little bit more fast and loose. So there's a lot of like just screw ups around like wrong words or like punctuation and stuff like that. And when you're listening to it, you have no idea that those mistakes even exist because the guy who's narrating it's not going to like use the wrong word or like put a comma in the wrong place or whatever. So it's kind of nice to listen to like some of those, and they have some like world class narrators doing a lot of these indie books through Audible because they have such a following, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
So.
And just circling one more thing back to the library card real quick, because I almost forgot to mention, is we also noticed that you can check out ebook versions of travel guidebooks.
Yep.
So if you have a Kindle or you just want to put like a Lonely Planet book on your phone or something like that, that you can do probably for free if you coordinate it right and check it out at the right time. So something to keep in mind. James Townsend is saying, I have 1,000 places to see before you die and 1,000 places in the US and Canada to see before you die on my Kindle. That's awesome. We have that as a hardback book, and as you all might imagine, when it's 1,000 places, the book is absolutely massive. So that's definitely not something that you would want to carry with you, like in a suitcase or even maybe in the car. So having that, like all of that content in a teeny tiny little Kindle can be really a great way to solve for that. Because the weight of books when you're traveling can really add up.
Yeah. If you're on a road trip, it's a little bit more manageable to have like a book or two with you
Or
in
if
your
you're going
car,
to a beach vacation or a cruise or something, you might want to bring some books.
Yeah. I personally love the Kindle no matter what. I just like it's lightweight, it's easy.
You have the one. So there's a difference between Kindles too, and having the one that you can read outside is really important depending on the way that you travel. Yeah, so I used to have the one that the screen only lit up, and so that way outside, especially if I'm wearing sunglasses, you can't see a darn thing. And so we traded that in after a while because I was like, I never read this because because I can't. I physically can't in times that I want to read. So. Yeah. There is that.
Real quick, Eric Brown, welcome. I think we missed you when you joined.
Eric.
Thanks for joining us.
Malcolm, thank you so much for and Alan for telling everybody to hit the like button. It really does help. We really appreciate all the likes and of course subscriptions too.
Yeah. And Eric Brown, I think, was also saying about YouTube Premium and whatnot. So I don't know if YouTube Premium is the same as YouTube Red, or I don't know if they've changed the name or anything like that, but if you do have YouTube Red, though, you get access to the Karate Kid show, which is like a sequel to the Karate Kid, like when they're like grown up, and it has like the original actors, and it's actually pretty freaking awesome. So
Derek was so excited about that.
I haven't seen the second season. I only watched the first season, but the first season was like great. I'm like, this is actually a good show.
Aww.
I thought it was going to be like terrible, and then I watched it. I'm like, this is actually amazing. So go check it
out. And so Michael Mann is saying we did road trips with the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings books. I could imagine that is such a smart thing to do on road trips because they're all, everybody in the family probably really likes to listen to that sort of thing. And, they're long series, so it can really kill some time. James Townsend, for the library, download the Hoopla and Libby. So I downloaded the Libby app last night, which is kind of the app that you need to use in order to search the catalog and stuff. But once you download that Libby app, you can just type in an author or type in a title and it'll pop up. So, literally it's the entire Chicago Public Library's catalog of audiobooks and ebooks right now. It's pretty cool. There are people, though, that like have checked out the books, and so that, sometimes you might have to wait. Karen Mack says, I've borrowed several guidebooks from the library, either in hard copy or book version for years. Totally smart. And such a great way to save money, because guidebooks can be like $20 and up, and very expensive. So
She loves buying them, though.
I do.
We got a whole bookshelf of them over
right
there.
over there.
I'm looking at them right now.
I do.
They're just staring at me.
And they've come in handy in a lot of scenarios. But if you are smart enough to actually do it in advance and put it on your Kindle or something like that, and make sure that your Kindle is charged while you're abroad, then that could be a great option. Or not abroad, but anywhere. Yeah. That could be a great option.
Michael Mann is saying that Lord of the Rings is about 70 hours of content. That's a lot of content. That's
that
great.
That is,
That's
yeah.
awesome. I read those books back in, middle school or something like that. I think I started reading those all in middle school before the movies came out. Because I like to point out that I read them before the movies came out. Even before we knew that the movies were coming out. He likes to do that with Game of Thrones,
too. He's like, oh, I read the Game of Thrones books before it was cool.
Because I was a nerd. I was a major nerd, but hey.
I didn't know him then.
Which is why I did so good on DC Travel Hacks trivia game yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if anybody here... Maybe if Mark Finley is still here.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else was taking part in that, but it was a hell of a game. It was neck and neck at the end between us and Sherman.
We came in second of 70 teams.
Sherman, man, that guy must be real quick on the trigger there, because
Derek's American history knowledge is impressive. But
although she helped, there was a couple that I was like. I said something, and she's like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. She knows, holidays better than I do. When is MLK Jr. Day? Yeah. I was like, February. I don't know. It's cold. That's all I remember.
But we kicked Mark Finley and Mark Walters' butt at trivia. So that was a pat on the back.
It was fun. It was actually a lot more fun than I thought. I was like, trivia, that's weird. And then we started playing. I'm, really getting into it. And,
yeah, we were into it. Well, when we started actually doing well, we were like, "Oh God, we gotta be on our game."
Well, it was funny. It was they'd say "Here's the monument," and all of a sudden I'm like, "Okay," I'm just start throwing out whatever facts about that person that I know is. I'm like, yeah. All right, so that was this, and it took a long time to complete that.
Derek totally carried our Thomas Jefferson answers, which were the first round was 3 questions about Thomas Jefferson, all different types of questions, and I know absolutely nothing, but thank God he had been to Monticello and knew at least enough to be dangerous about Thomas Jefferson. We had a strong start.
What was funny? We'll get off this topic here in a second, but
I know Mark was maybe the only one there.
They're like, oh, favorite beverage. I'm like, favorite beverage. The only thing I remember about Thomas Jefferson is that he liked mac and cheese, and I was like. And then I had mac and cheese for lunch, actually, that day. Because I was like, oh, Thomas Jefferson, mac and cheese, yum.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, good times. All right.
Yeah, Mark Finley is saying that we should do a Walter's World trivia. Because that was fun. That was fun yesterday.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a sidebar.
Yeah. Tangent!
Oh, good morning, Lori. Thanks so much for joining.
Mark is still on.
This is really fun to have you. Yeah. And then...
Ronnie Dove, speaking of road trips, what is the longest road trip you've been on? Mine is 20 hours drive to western Pennsylvania from Texas, one way. Stay a week and make the trip back to Texas.
This is a great question. Hopefully everybody can answer this one. What is the longest road trip y'all have been on?
My longest road trip was a week and a half road trip with buddies of mine, my brother, as well as some fraternity brothers, heading down to the south from Indiana to check out a bunch of law schools. My buddy was about to go to law school, so we went down and we hit up UVA and Duke and a bunch of other schools.
Oh, thanks, Michael Mann, for joining. Have a good rest of your Sunday.
Bye, Michael. So that's probably my longest road trip. We kind of did a big loop.
The longest day I've spent in the car is when we moved from New York to Chicago. Yeah. That was a 14-hour day of driving straight. And
guess who did all that driving?
Derek did all the driving, and I did all the navigating and playlist making. So that was a long one. I wouldn't ever do a back-to-back, 14-hour, then 14-hour, because we were pretty exhausted.
No.
But I have done a lot of road trips before. Most of them are a week or two in length, in terms of just how long until from leaving home to getting back home.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to hopefully a bigger one this summer if things start to open up.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that a cool road trip would be to fly into New York, rent a car, and then drive across the country. I think that'd be kind of cool to go all the way across. But
Yeah.
that's just me.
Malcolm's saying he won't drive over 4 hours, but that is half the length of the South Island. Yeah. The South Island, I hear, is really, it's a great drive, though, I hear.
I think that personally, if I was to do like a long road trip, I wouldn't want to drive more than like 4 hours in a given day.
Yeah.
I think like 4.
Because you want to be able to stop.
Unless it's like the first day, maybe the first day I'd be willing to do like an 8-hour drive to get out of what we're used to. But then I'd want to kind of keep it short so that we'd actually be able to like see and explore a place and not be exhausted. Because driving is exhausting. You have to like stay focused and all that stuff, and it's good to kind of keep it short and sweet.
But if you have the Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter series to listen to, maybe it'll just fly on by. Okay, so Eric Brown saying he drove from Louisiana to Toronto in 9 days through 14 states. That's a long one for sure. But probably pretty cool to see like 14 states in 9 days. That's awesome. Mark Finley says, farthest I've ever gone in one day is 13 to 14 hours. Yeah, so that's similar to what we experienced. It's grueling, especially when we were, because
Pennsylvania is a long state.
It is.
Pennsylvania's a very
what
long
we
state.
ran into driving from New York to Chicago is because we started in Long Island City, Queens, we had to start in really bad traffic, basically, which just doesn't give you a great taste. So it took us like an hour and a half just to get out of New York City because we were going from Queens, which is on the east side, through Manhattan and then over through Jersey and stuff like that at the beginning of a day, so kind of during rush hour. So timing your road trips well, like had we started at 4 a.m., maybe it would have been a little bit more pleasant and a little bit shorter. And then let's see, gallivanting. Wait, did I miss? Okay, so Michael Mann said 16-day road trip, 4,600 miles in 18 states. That is bravo. If you're still on, that's really, really cool. And then Malcolm says 3 hours to cross from east to the west coast. That's not too bad, actually. Just to do a 3-hour drive from the east to the west coast of New Zealand is, you could do that kind of as a day trip. Probably you wouldn't very often, but that would be an interesting one to do, just to get out of your element. Gallivanting Gal said we did Seattle to San Francisco, but not in one day. I think I missed, so Lori Sims says California to Oregon is about 12 hours. Holy smokes. But I think just driving up kind of past Eureka and all of that is supposed to be just stunning countryside. Alan A says, Gallivanting Gals, I just remembered I cannot catch your chat tomorrow. Oh, we'll be on. So Gallivanting Gals has a live stream tomorrow night for everybody who's on this chat. So hopefully we can all see each other again tomorrow night too. Then Bonnie is saying, okay, did I miss? She's saying also Barcelona and Genoa. I don't know what that was in reference to, so I'm really sorry. I might have missed that conversation. And then Katie's saying she has to run. Oh, thanks for joining, Katie. It was really great to have you. And then Graham saying, have you seen Dave Gorman Unchained? It's a British comedian who tries to make it across the states without giving any money to chain businesses, independent only, and it's really inspiring. That would be tricky. I think you'd have to really plan that in advance because so many roadside stops only have like chain gas stations and chain restaurants. So you'd really have to map that out in advance. I wouldn't try just winging it. But yeah, no, I haven't seen that. Let me know, is it on like a streaming service that we could watch that? Because I'd be interested, especially since so many of us are probably going to be looking at road trips this summer. It'd be really cool to see what kinds of places that Dave Gorman found, so we could try to see if there's any that we could replicate. Mark Finley says, you can travel 13 hours in a straight line and never leave Texas. Yes, I have heard that. Texas is a massive state, and you could probably go to like El Paso to up through Dallas, and that would take quite a long time.
Did you talk about our Scottish road trip at all?
I haven't yet. No.
Yeah, so that was about total driving time. I think when we did our Scotland road trip was probably like 13 hours, 14 hours of driving time. Maybe a little bit more depending on how slow we had to go. But that was pretty cool, and we broke that up over like 10 days, I think. Kind of started in Glasgow, drove up to Oban, went up to Glenfinnan, and then Glencoe, went up to Portree and Isle of Skye, up to Inverness, back down to Edinburgh, and then over to Glasgow to finish it up. So we did like the whole like circle.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Which was a lot of fun. I was just looking up how long that was kind of combined. It's about 13, 14 hours. But that's probably one of the more fun road trips we've done.
Yeah, and we stopped at like every scenic vista possible. So probably our total drive time was a little bit longer than that even. So Graham, thank you. So he's saying gas was the biggest problem for him. Yeah, it's to have a like podunk gas station whenever you actually need gas would be really hard to.
Speaking of like fun documentaries about,
but yeah, I mean, send me the documentary. That'd be really cool. He's saying it's around an hour and a half.
Yeah, speaking of like fun documentaries and different things about like long haul road trips, there's a really really cool one that I like, and there's two of them, and it's called, one of them's the Long Way Down, and then the other one's the Long Way Around, and it's Ewan McGregor and one of his buddies who do these like long haul motorcycle road trips on the back of like BMW motorcycles, and they're really cool. And I think the first one was the Long Way Around, and they start in London, and then they go all the way across Europe and Russia, and then they get on a ferry and they drop them off I think in Alaska, and then they drive from Alaska all the way across to like New York. And so they're doing like the long way around the world basically, which is super cool. And what's interesting about that is that they didn't really have any major hiccups until they got, I think, into the United States, and that's when they ran into some issues with like almost getting like into like traffic accidents and major issues like that. But that was pretty cool. And then the Long Way Down, they start up in like Inverness or something like that in Scotland. They drive down and then catch a ferry or something like that over to Europe, or maybe they do the channel, I don't remember, and then they go down Europe, and then they take a boat to like northern Africa, and then they go all the way down Africa, and they end in like South Africa somewhere. So like that's like going from like the top down all the way to, I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah. So
check those out, and they have some pretty cool stuff in them.
Malcolm Hogan, we totally agree. Inverness is a beautiful spot in Scotland.
Yeah.
We were able to go there, and we experienced like spontaneous bagpiper brigade, and we experienced all these like rainbows over the city.
We had a lot of rainbows in Inverness.
We found some pretty good food in Inverness too, which was nice. We had a good time there. That was a year and a half ago, perhaps, that we had gotten to go. And then Graham is saying Miami to Key West is really lovely. We have actually
super long drive.
We've done part of that, probably 2/3 or 3/4 maybe of that drive. Again, that was another scenario where we probably got too late of a start, so we had a lot of traffic coming.
We didn't
out
realize
of Miami.
we just didn't realize how long the drive was.
Yeah.
When we finally looked it up, we're like, "There's no way we're gonna make it all the way there."
Make it all the way and then all the way back.
So we ended up like stopping at like a state park and hanging out on the beach, changing into our swim trunks, and just like swam for a bit. And
yeah, which was so cool. So what's great about that particular drive for anyone who's more unfamiliar is once you get to the Keys, which is an island chain off the southern tip of Florida here in the U.S., you start kind of driving over water. So the actual highway is built over the ocean, connecting each island as you go. And so the Key West island is the furthest out from the mainland, and you are in this completely scenic, oceanic, like craziness, but it's stunning, especially if you go when the weather's really nice.
Graham, thanks for joining us, bud. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for joining, and send me that documentary. I would love to check it out. And then I wanted to. Oh yeah, so Mark Finley is saying El Paso is closer to Los Angeles than it is to Texarkana. That's crazy. There's a highway that actually drives from El Paso, in that southern area that I believe goes over into either San Diego or Los Angeles. And part of that highway, once you are a little bit past Yuma, I think, it actually dips into Mexico really briefly. But you don't have to use your passport if you're just driving on through. They do kind of make you stop and check your car and everything like that. But because it's so quick, you don't have to go through border control or anything like that.
I don't know if that's still the case, but...
well, that's true. It might not still be the case. That was probably mid-2000s that I was there last. So
that might have changed.
I don't think, but I think because there's no exits, like you literally can't get off the highway in Mexico, that might have been why that was.
I don't know. What I will say though is that Texarkana is home to one of my favorite. Getting back to podcasts for a second, it's home to one of my favorite personal finance podcasters. Stacking Benjamins, if anybody's interested. It's a pretty interesting, you'd think personal finance podcast is going to be like the driest thing ever, but they're actually pretty funny and
there's some good ones out there these days. All right, so let's jump into navigation stuff because I know that we talked about Maps.me really briefly before, but I don't want to forget to talk about these apps. So Google Maps is fantastic. However, it's good to have a backup as well, especially when you're abroad and you're not going to be able to necessarily access your cell phone data as well. So what we use is a really, really good app, in my opinion, called Maps.me. And what you can do is download download the city, like the map of the city that you're going to in advance. So I do this all the time when I go to like Paris and London because I don't always want to use international like roaming data and stuff like that. So if I keep my phone on airplane mode all day long, I can still access a very great map tool. So Google Maps won't work if I have my phone on airplane mode trying to save data. And so what's cool about Maps.me is that if you have it like downloaded and updated, you can still even do things like star places, mark something as a favorite, map out how to get from point A to point B. So highly recommend checking that out if you don't already have it.
And what Rachel and Graham were talking about is you can also download maps on Google as well, so you can do something similar with the Google map as well.
Oh, that's a new thing then in the past couple of years for them because they did not used to have that tool.
I don't know if they... The cool thing about Maps.me though is because it uses like your GPS or whatever, you still have access to like where you are on the map. Mm-hmm. So it helps you kind of like navigate and find where you are. For those like me who are kind of like map challenged, like I'm like I can't ever find myself on anything. So
yeah. I also really like with Maps.me is if I ever, because I go back to Paris now, like I've been doing it the past couple of years, and so it saves all my favorite places. I can go back and just like maybe save something to talk about in a video or something like that too. And then
looks like Google has GPS as well. That's cool.
Okay, cool. That's definitely, they probably were like, oh shoot, we've got to build this because Maps.me is getting a lot of users.
Yeah, and I favorite a ton of stuff now on my Google Map app because I like, somebody asked me, for recommendations on a different place. I like being able to like look up the city and then just see, oh yeah, no, I remember this place now, and I can give that pretty quickly to people. So
yeah, I know that.
I think that's just a great tool in general when you go places to help remember what you liked and where it was. And
yeah, the biggest thing for me was just that Maps.me gave me access to all of these things offline, whereas Google did not, at least last time I checked. So good to know that they have caught up. I also use City Mapper. I just haven't used it as much. There's certain cities, though, that it can be a really great tool, Gallivanting Gal, so thanks for jumping in with that one. Yeah. And then what you're saying about the metro. So I assume it's what we're about to talk about next. So if you know that you're going to a city that has public transport and that you're likely to use that public transport, downloading the metro map, whether it's like a subway map or the bus route map, or the tram map, we were able to do that in Amsterdam and really map out how we could get from point A to point B pretty easily because you can buy like a day pass in a lot of these cities for the entire public transit system. And it can be really great if you don't want to call an Uber or something like that. You just want to experience what locals do.
Yeah. Karen Mack actually has a pretty cool thing where she says that she's created walking tours of Paris on Google Maps and have then sent my link to multiple friends who've gone after me.
That's
So
awesome.
that's a really cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I'm curious if you're able to like actually show the route to, go from.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Cool.
Cool. We'll have to try that out because that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool way to try to do it.
Because on Google Maps, I believe you can only do up to 10 stops. So I don't know if that's the same with walking. So I started looking this up with road trips. You can only include 10 road trip stops before they say you're done. Like this is it. So I don't know if that would be the same with walking tour stops as well.
All right, so Lori Sims is saying, and welcome, Lori. I didn't see when you.
She joined a little bit earlier.
Okay.
I said hi.
So she says that Google Maps did not help me in Venice at all. I just gave myself 1 to 2 hours to be lost every time I left the hotel on the Grand Canal.
Yeah, Venice is hard to navigate generally, I think, but that's really funny.
We've never been to Venice. That's actually a huge place that we want to get to.
We've been to a lot of the other Italian places.
Well, there's so much to see in Italy that I don't even think you can possibly say that we've been to a lot of the other places because there's just too much to see.
It's true.
We've only scratched the surface, and we've been there for a few weeks now in total. Because we've never even been south of Rome.
Yeah.
Crazy. What I will say though is that that's one of the cities that we want to hit, and from everything we understand, Lori, that's the way to do it anyways, is to get lost. Kind of go down a bunch of different streets, get off of the Grand Canal. Because from what we understand, it's like super touristy along the Grand Canal, but if you kind of get off of it, you can, kind of find some of the more enchanting and cool places hard to find. So, and it doesn't take you very long to get off of it and like kind of get away from the crowds is everything that we've heard. Again, we've never been. So
on my phone, the way that I handle things is because we travel frequently, I have a separate folder for my airplane apps and like those types of travel apps from like the transportation apps. So with transportation, it's a little bit more leaning towards the metro maps of cities and City Mapper, Maps.me, that sort of thing. And then the travel ones is like the Delta, American, United apps of the world. And that's nice where you don't have to be scrolling through every single app in your phone in order to find what you need.
Yeah. And I do want to say though, Mark Finley, that's like the coolest thing I've heard is Mark saying that speaking of maps, one of my favorite pre-travel activities is to put on my VR headset, go into Google Earth, and navigate around a city using Street View. I can get around Rome and Venice pretty good too. Like, that's insane. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Now I want a VR headset.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Man. That's awesome. I'm going to try that.
I know that there's a lot more VR tours and 360 tours coming out during quarantine than ever before, too, that you can explore different cities. A lot of the travel press has aggregated some of those. So, like, I think you can, if you go on to the Condé Nast Travelers or the FRs or Travel and Leisures of the world, they'll have a list of ways that you can do your own walking tour from your armchair.
Yeah.
And Galvin and Gals, that's funny. They're saying the last time we got lost in Venice, we found an entire street full of doors sized for me and Tracy. So for everybody
Tiny
else
doors.
who doesn't know already, I am 5'1". I'm very short.
I'm not 5'1". I'm much taller than her, but it doesn't look like that in these chairs.
He's several inches taller than me. So that's super funny. We had the same experience in the Cotswolds. All of the doors to like those old 1600s, thatched roof cabins were really short, and so I took some photos in front of them.
Where it's like, she looks like a giant.
Yeah, it's like,
she's not.
I look like I'm 6'7".
But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I will say that, just speaking of like getting lost in places like Italy and stuff, is if you're not used to like their street signs and kind of how they do it, it can sometimes just be hard to even identify what street you're on, because a lot of times like in Rome there are like these tiny little plaques that are like way old, and like they'll have like abbreviations for street and stuff, and you're like, I don't know what that means.
No, that's
and like
true.
where am I?
Or the streets change names very frequently in certain places. That even happens in like
too,
New York and stuff.
But yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's like, well, we're lost. We'll find the restaurant eventually, hopefully, and hopefully they didn't give away our seat.
Yeah.
So, but that can be stressful, as if you're trying to get to a reservation and you're lost in like Rome, or Paris does this too a little bit, and you're like, I have no idea where I am.
Malcolm saying there's no grid system in Italian cities. There's no grid system in a lot of cities. I would venture to say, not London, not Paris.
Those of us who are in areas considered New World are a little.
What's fascinating is with New York City,
spoiled.
The southern tip of Manhattan Island, there is no grid system. Like south of Houston, which it's pronounced Houston, not Houston. That's all where New Amsterdam was, and so that area is like the earliest development on the island, and above that used to be farmland. Yep. All that is now like Midtown and stuff, and Central Park area and stuff like that. So they created a grid system above Houston, basically.
Michelle, have fun at church.
Thanks, Michelle, for joining. Great to have you on.
What I will say is like grid systems are great. Love it. It's like the best thing for like finding your way places.
Yeah.
That said, there is something so like charming and quaint about like the more like winding, like just
getting lost.
What used to be like a footpath turned into a street, and now that's like the thing. Like that's awesome.
We'll
it's a little bit more organic.
Venice,
it follows the contours of the earth and all this. It's really cool.
Or I think a lot of them used to be like cow paths and stuff around houses. Oh, hi, Darlene.
Hey,
Great to
Mom,
see you. Thanks
welcome.
for joining. So we're talking about travel apps and travel tools for anybody who is new onto the chat, and welcome. Glad to have everybody on today. And then, so I think we've talked a lot about maps and stuff like that. Really great to have you all weigh in. I think that can really help everybody, because we all love to navigate well.
So what, anybody who's new, what we've talked about now is we've talked about different planning, whether that's apps or websites that we like to use. The one thing we actually didn't talk about on that was Hotels Tonight, which can be a good
depending on how you travel, because most of the people on this chat, I think, plan in advance. So,
but if you're not a big planner, or you get to a place and you want to try to,
and the room is really gross, and you're like, oh shoot, this isn't what I expected. You can use Hotels Tonight and save a lot of money, which that has happened to me once.
Yeah, or yes, whatever. So we've talked about planning, we've talked about entertainment, we've talked about navigating now, and I guess the last thing is just around like language.
Yes.
So if you're going to a place that doesn't speak your native language, or a language that you kind of know.
Yeah, we always have Google Translate app on our phones, even if we're not traveling, just in case we encounter people we need to communicate with, even in the U.S. Or we want to look up what does this recipe mean, or something like that. What's cool about Google Translate is there's a lot of different ways within that app that you can translate something. So it's not, as long as you've downloaded that translation, basically like the dictionary, you can use it to translate anything basically from English to that language. There's a ton of languages on there. We've even used it like English to Ukrainian before, or English to Chinese. The important thing is if you're going to use it to communicate with, like, say you're going to China or to the Ukraine or Russia, places that don't use our alphabet, you want to also simultaneously not only download Google Translate, but also the keyboard for that language.
Because what we find is that it's helpful to be able to like hand your phone to somebody This was before coronavirus. Don't hand your phone to people now. But
Yeah.
hand your phone to somebody, and then they can like type in something to you. So you can ask them a question, and they can type it back to you, which is super helpful.
Yeah. And they can't type it back if they don't have their keyboard.
Yeah, we ran into that issue before.
Yeah.
With Mandarin.
But it also has tools where you can speak something into a phone and then it translates it for you into the other language. Or if, say, you're reading a menu, if you connect your camera to Google Translate, you can scan over the menu and it'll translate automatically, which has been awesome in any country that doesn't speak English, just to make sure that I'm reading certain ingredients right, especially since I have a little bit more dietary restrictions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always perfect, and sometimes it's actually kind of funny. Like, you zoom in on one word, and then you zoom out, and you see how the like meaning changes as it takes everything into account.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so like certain, because there's what is that called?
There's like context that needs
idioms or something like that.
I don't know.
What? Gosh, some English language major needs to jump in on this. But there's things that like are like phrases and sayings that may incorporate a word. That it might mean one thing, and then all of a sudden, when you actually have the full sentence, it actually means something else.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like for while you're there. Prior to going, if you wanted to learn a little bit about the language, so you can get some of like the little pleasantries and niceties. So you can at least, when you go into a place, greet somebody, say hello, thank you, in their local language. It goes a long way to just show that you're trying. You don't have to be fluent by any means, but as long as you can get by with like the hellos, thank you, goodbye. Duolingo is what Eliz is using right now with French, and she really likes it.
Yeah.
It helps like gamify the learning process. Which is pretty cool. I found there's actually a podcast series called Coffee Break Italian, Coffee Break French, Coffee Break Spanish, etc., which does like some like little lessons, over a number of episodes to kind of learn a little bit about those things, and it's always into these little bite-sized like 10 to 15 minute kind of episodes. So there's just different things that you can do before you go to a place to try to get just that little bit of understanding before you get there.
Yeah, totally. Oh, good. Idioms is the word. Thank you so much. And Darian from Germany Travel Personal Guide saying he loves Google Translate. I love it too. It has saved our butts in so many scenarios. And Lori, this is a great tip too. I just want to I think I'm going to be saying it right. So she's saying, I have the where is the public toilet, I'm assuming like written in your phone or on a note card or something like that, for restaurants, in case there's an area of the restaurant that is not open in an emergency. Totally. Yeah. So that is another really good point. There's a lot of people that recommend to carry like laminated cards or something for those types of, especially places that don't even use your alphabet. So that way you can ask really quickly in a pinch, like, where's the toilet? Like, please call 911, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and Lori's saying she has that as an app.
Oh, as an app, cool, cool. Oh, share which app that is.
That's like an obvious app that somebody needed to have. So
yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, the other thing that I'd always heard, before like apps and stuff were a thing, before smartphones, was a lot of people would get like those like cards that had pictures on it, so it'd be like a picture of a toilet that you could show somebody, and like things like that. So that's like the old analog way of doing this, but now that there's apps, like you could easily like pull it up, and if you have data, then it doesn't matter as much. But if you're not going to have access to your data for whatever reason while you're abroad, having an app already downloaded with like those like emergency phrases ready to go is super helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So we've covered now basically all the apps that we were going to chat through. Hopefully you guys all found this helpful. And just to share information amongst ourselves when it comes to ways to make travel easier, I think is a really fun thing to do with these live streams.
Yeah. Because, at the end of the day with technology, the beauty of like modern technology is that you can, obviously make life a lot easier. And if you kind of have certain things that you just know that you're going to use on a regular basis, kind of like a checklist, it can make your life a lot easier and make travel a lot less stressful and more approachable to everybody.
Great, thanks, Malcolm. And then Gallivanting Gals just said a really important tip that I'm glad that you guys brought up. So they're saying yes, knowing things like 911 in different countries that you visit is really important. So they give a great example that it's not 911 everywhere. It's, for example, in the UK, 999.
Or in New Zealand,
or in New
111.
Zealand, 111 apparently. So that is really important to know before you go anywhere, if it's different. I have actually had to call, not 911 on any trips, thankfully, so far, but just in life in general. I've been, like, walking down the street, people I've seen needing help. So that could happen anywhere, and even if it's not for your own sake, just being able to do that in case you see something is really important.
Yep. So all these are great tips, and I think that once things open up again, it'll be good for us all to travel again and hopefully bust out a lot of these apps and things and actually get things going. I guess now is a time when we could be planning our next big trips abroad and whatnot, and kind of get these things ready to go. So that's something for us to think about.
Eric Brown is saying that he likes to use Google Earth a lot. That's a really good thing to add to this conversation, especially as we were talking about the 360 views and doing VR content. Google Earth is a great tool to use to zoom in on different places around the world and just see what different places look like. So
and then kind of adding that to like Mark Finley's thing about like using like a VR headset with Google Earth to like then kind of be able to like explore those places is really cool, and something that now I want to go out and buy a VR headset.
They're pretty pricey though.
I don't know. We'll see.
Derek
Amazon.
was talking about buying a drone on the last chat, so I don't know. I feel like the more we talk about
I'd rather get a VR set
the
at
more
this
Derek's
point.
just gonna do all these impulse buys.
All right,
but
so the
thankfully
beauty,
he did not get the drone.
All right, the beauty of a drone, and the reason why I think a drone would be really cool during quarantine, is I could still get my like photography fix by like sending the drone up and getting like some cool like sunset pictures or sunrise pictures with the drone.
That
and
is true.
Not leave the house. I could send it up from like our roof deck on the back of the house and like fly it way up and then just get a picture of like the sunset on like Chicago, which would be really cool.
Yeah, that is one thing that we are missing is the beach in Chicago has great sunrise photography opportunities available, and then there's a hotel in our neighborhood that is higher than all the other buildings that has a rooftop deck that you can go up and take photos of the sunset. So because our house is, not the tallest in the neighborhood by any means, we have not really been seeing sunrises and sunsets in the same way. But
if I had a drone,
I know.
We could?
Well,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, well, it's,
Maybe I already worked.
It's one of those things. No, you didn't. And so then Bonnie's saying that I also save some common phrases on old school paper, like I'm allergic to gluten in case my phone battery is dead. Yeah, that makes sense. And especially if you do have that type of allergy, you definitely want to be able to communicate that in a pinch.
Gallivanting Gals is saying the Mavic Mini is only $399. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Like I was saying before, Derek...
And it's tiny, and you can, like, take it with you. Like, that's so cool.
Like I was saying before, Derek needs to use his GoPro a little bit more, which he was begging for.
Just tape it onto the...
before we invest in a lot of other pricier tools as well.
We'll see.
Anyway, so yeah, I want to just go back to Bonnie's comment because there's ways that you can just prepare in advance for worst case scenarios like that, and that's definitely something to do. Gallivanting Gals is saying that's the one that I crash at the castle. I think we mentioned to you guys that we had a friend who bought like a really inexpensive one on Amazon, drone on Amazon, that didn't have really long range, and
you didn't know that.
It was very funny because it's not the kind that if the battery dies or if it goes too far away that the technology was there inside of it to have it come back automatically. So he was flying it over a lake and it went too far away and it just fell into the lake, middle of the lake, and it was a deep lake. It's like that thing.
Did it just fall, or did he try to bring it back and then like glided?
Nope. It literally went, and this I think he spent like $150. It was a very cheap one, and it went all the way to the middle of the lake. He was trying to, I think, get it like a really good shot, and then it just, boom, gravity just took it in.
Yeah.
So that I couldn't, like, I felt really bad, but I laughed my butt off too. It was
the whole thing there is like, for him it was like, I don't think he like charged the batteries all the way. I think he just like took it out of a box and like
took it out of the box.
Threw it up, and it was like, that's why they say charge your battery like before you take it out.
Well, also like I think that it would just, the technology wasn't there to get it back. Like it just reached the limit and then went bye bye.
But if you charge the battery all the way, probably could have gotten it back.
Yeah. So anyway, Mark Findley's saying that the Magic Mini is amazing. Really cool to know that you have one. And then he's saying drones are great, but more regulated now because of privacy. Yes, and especially in cities like we live in Chicago. There's very specific places where you can fly drones. I don't believe you can fly them at all in any of the national parks without a permit.
Which is sad.
And then in New York City, you definitely cannot fly them.
Yeah. Here in Chicago, you can fly them in a number of places. Like, if I were to take it out to like the beach or something like that, I could easily, take it up and there'd be no issues. I think it's just within, like around here, I don't know if I'm technically allowed to like put up a drone.
We never see them, so
but early enough. But if it was early enough in the morning, I think I could probably get away with it and not have many issues. But yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
Put it up at 5 a.m. Probably won't get in trouble.
Mark's saying, I just decided I need to go on a long drive today in my muscle car. Good for the soul, and I'm tired of being cooped up. I think that's a great idea.
By the way, speaking of tired of being cooped up, I don't know if anybody's been watching SNL on as they've been doing like these remote SNLs. But last night, Saturday Night Live, for those not in the know.
TV show in the U.S.
But Pete Davidson did a pretty funny kind of like music video last night, and it was called like "I'm Going Crazy," and it's all about like going crazy during quarantine. And there's a great like probably about a quarter of it is Adam Sandler as well, so it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Go check it out. It's actually catchy, and it's been like in my head now since we watched it.
Derek's been singing this.
Like song. I've been like whistling it like while we were getting ready for all this, and I think Eliz is like, stop. So if you want a catchy song about going crazy stuck in your head, go check it out.
I wish we had a muscle car to go drive around right now. That'd be fun.
Speaking of other great things on YouTube, you have to go check out Jim Gaffigan. Yes. Has some hilarious stuff that he's putting out right now called Let's Get Cookin'. And for those who don't know Jim Gaffigan's like this awesome comedian. He's more family friendly. Usually doesn't use a lot of swear words or things like that. So fairly safe from that perspective. He does a lot of jokes about food, and he's a heavier guy. He's not massive, but he's a heavier guy, so he talks about food and kind of pokes fun at himself for that stuff. And he was kind of, I think his like most well-known skit is about Hot Pockets. So maybe you know him as the Hot Pocket guy, but he's been putting out, he has like 5 kids, and him and his wife live in an apartment in New York City, and he's been putting out these great things about like him as a chef Jim, and him making like toast. Yeah,
the first one he made toast, and the second one he made burgers, but like basically from frozen.
Yeah, he's like, you never want to freeze your meat, but it's coronavirus, so
these are
this
frozen.
Has been frozen. He's like, and you're supposed to thaw them out, the day before, but I didn't, so they're still frozen. And he just says,
let's get cooking.
Let's get cooking. And highly recommend it. Awesome.
Yeah.
And he's from Indiana, and I'm from Indiana, so that's fun.
Yeah. That's true.
Him and Letterman.
That is true.
Comic genius.
Gallivanting Gals, yeah, the opener last night with Brad Pitt, that's a funny one, but yeah, we won't talk about it in detail because want to avoid a little politics on here.
Yeah.
And Bonnie's saying, by the way, off topic, but cute shirt, I'll let you guess which one. We all know it's definitely Derek's.
I have a cute shirt.
We're starting to laugh a lot about the fact that Derek
She's
has
got a
been
cute
being
shirt on.
called out a little bit for his fashion.
No.
Which is really sweet because he's never been a fashion icon before until quarantine. So, thank you to everybody who's appreciating Derek's fashion right now.
She buys all my clothes.
I do.
It's been that way for years.
You put them on. You coordinated that outfit today.
One leg at a time. I picked out the pants.
Yeah. Most of
She gave me two shirt options
Derek's
today.
wearing really nice clothes today, but
she gave me two shirt
usually
options.
he's wearing t-shirts in these, and those t-shirts are usually from Target. So there's that.
I've been wearing a lot of pajama pants that have Fred Flintstone and Batman on them.
Yes.
So that's fun.
Where's the closet tour? I feel like Megan Morris started some rumors on our last live stream that are. We'll debunk them right now.
False.
We have not done a closet tour. Derek has some ties, but he does not have a crazy collection of ties. He could show them.
I have a lot of ties, but not like a crazy number of ties.
He has a normal amount of ties for somebody who works in finance, I suppose.
Yeah. We have a nice closet, but we share it. So
yeah,
there's not
closet.
anything fancy or anything. I have a tuxedo.
He does, yes,
I do have a
for
tuxedo.
weddings.
That's the fanciest thing I have, though.
Yeah. So, and indeed, I buy most of Derek's clothes. So I was laughing very hard when we were talking about that on one of the last live streams about Derek being very fashionable.
Yeah. Well, I think Megan started that rumor on the Walter's World live show,
yes.
which was hilarious.
And then Malcolm saying, "I have 15 draws of shirts."
Drawers of shirts that he bought from around the world.
I think I just said it like people do in Long Island. So here in the U.S., the funny thing is that everywhere says drawers except for if you grew up in Queens or Long Island, you say draw. Fun fact.
Is that how you spell drawer?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so buying shirts around the world, that's fun. It's fun to bring those little things back as souvenirs. We showed on one of the other live streams. I got into this habit where I was starting to buy hats from the airports and bringing them back that said Singapore, Amsterdam, etc. For Eliz and myself, just because it's fun. But yeah, no, it's fun to bring something like that that's wearable and easy. And it's a good memento. Galvant
and Gal say some women collect purses and high heels, which I don't, by the way. But yeah, definitely a lot in the U.S. We have combined total over 150 pairs of tennis shoes. That's
a lot of tennis shoes.
That's impressive.
Are you guys sneakerheads?
Yeah, so that's what I was just gonna say. There's a whole.
Do you guys
culture.
do the whole trading of sneakers and stuff? Because that's pretty cool. I know.
I think what they try to do is match their sneakers to their t-shirts.
Oh, that's fun.
They say, oh my god, Tracy has to have a t-shirt from everywhere that we go. It's ridiculous. We've ended up starting to buy, because we used to buy magnets a little bit, but now we don't have a refrigerator that we can even put magnets on. Yeah. And then we bought mugs for a little while, but it's kind of hard to make sure that you can pack a mug into a suitcase.
And that mugs take up a ton of space.
And yeah.
At home.
Depends.
We don't have room for any more
mugs. But I really like having the mugs because we drink coffee and tea a lot. But then when it comes to souvenirs now, it's really fun to be able to have a hat or t-shirts from somewhere. Yeah. Malcolm saying his shirt collection would probably be 150 to 200 at least. Wow, that's impressive.
Dang. I don't have that many. I get into the issue where I'll buy things at music festivals, stuff like that. The last music festival I went to was a few years ago at this point, but I went totally unprepared for the weather change that happened because it was in Napa Valley, and at night it gets quite cold.
He actually went for work, which is why I didn't go.
Well, it wasn't necessarily. Well, it was kind of for work.
Yeah, one of his clients.
We sold a music festival a few years ago, and the music festival that we sold I ended up going to, and it was a lot of fun, and had a great time, but the issue was that like even though I had like a free ticket to go, I ended up like buying like so much merch because I got so cold that I probably spent about a ticket's worth of money on just clothing and things to carry around stuff. So yeah, they made their money back.
Karen Mack said something that I want to talk about. So she's saying they buy fridge magnets and Starbucks mugs wherever they can. And I think it's really cool to go to somebody's home that has a bunch of Starbucks mugs and like open their cabinet and see everywhere that they've been. We went to Shanghai and stayed with our friend there, and both him and his partner had lived in the Middle East before, and
like
he had
Kuwait,
lived in
Dubai.
Yeah, so they had like a UAE and a Kuwait Starbucks mug, and every morning I just like only wanted to use the Kuwait one because I thought it was so cool. Since I've never been anywhere close to Kuwait before, I'm like, oh, at least I kind of have a little piece of somewhere really far away right now, and I'm sure that you kind of can get that vibe, just at home with that kind of collection.
All right, now I understand how Malcolm has so many shirts. He'll bring back 20 to 40 T-shirts after a 2-month trip to Europe. That's crazy. Do you go with no clothes and just buy it there? Like, I'm kind of curious on how you do that.
I'm so impressed with that. That's really cool.
I've heard of, there's somebody that I know whose, like, dad goes to places and he doesn't take any clothes with him. He actually buys all of his clothes from, like, the hotels and stuff. So he'll go to, like, the Wynn in, like, Vegas or something like that and then just buy everything.
That can be pretty pricey.
It's somebody who has way too much money. But he's like, I don't want any luggage. And so he just goes and buys everything there. Again, too much money. But we can't do that.
I'm not going to make a packing video for that type of philosophy.
Well, because then you'd be like, and we're done.
Yeah, and bring your briefcase and you're good.
Put the credit card in your wallet. We're done.
This is the packing video. Started and ended. But anyway, so I do like to make packing videos about how I like to pack for different trips to different places. So once we can travel again, maybe I'll do one for road trips as well if anybody wants to see it. But that's really cool. We end up traveling without checked luggage a lot more these days, just because a lot of our travels has been around, well, with me flying standby, which is harder to do with checked luggage, and then with Derek's work trips and stuff, it's just harder. So we've gotten a little bit, I don't know, we haven't done as many souvenirs and as many clothes things as we used to.
Yeah, Rachel's saying that she likes to look for like unique clothing items as souvenirs when she travels.
Rachel's found some great stuff in like Hawaii. And Europe.
She loves buying clothes in France.
I do. I struggle with buying clothes everywhere though, because of my height. I don't fit in like a ton of off the rack type clothing. So going into like a market, for example, I really can't wear like a lot of the dresses or something like that, which is unfortunate, but I can still go and appreciate the styles in different places. That's free.
So one of the other things that we like to do, kind of along the lines of the clothing thing, is buy things that are kind of iconic to that location, and not just clothes, right? So like if you want to pass one of those over, babe.
Let's go to the kids department. Actually, when we went to Amsterdam, what am I passing?
One of the tees.
Yeah, let me just weigh in on that. I have done that. I have bought T-shirts from like kid size extra large in Colorado that have fit me. I've bought sometimes in the national parks. A lot of the gift stores will have like youth sizes, so like teenage sizes, and that has been really good. And then when I was in the Netherlands, I really wanted an Ajax zip-up sweatshirt, so I ended up buying a kid-size large on that too, just because it fits me a lot better, especially in the sleeve length. So really I know that was a joke, but that actually worked for me.
And she especially wanted the Ajax zip-up because her great-grandfather was on the 1901 Ajax team, which was the kind of first year like inaugural team. So
my great-grandfather helped found the Ajax.
So for instance, what I was going to talk about is not just getting clothing, but like when we went to China, we bought a bunch of tea, in Beijing, which we spent an ungodly amount of money on. So this is like the ginseng oolong tea, which it even says under here what it's good for. So warm stomach, I don't know what that means. Improve immunity, strengthen the kidney, improve memory. That's cool.
As long as you brew tea correctly, hopefully it'll warm your stomach no matter which one you buy.
And it has dosage and stuff, which actually that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was on the bottom. I've been guessing. I've just been like dumping stuff into. I don't know.
No, all of them have it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. This one says nourished stomach, not warm stomach. So,
Oh.
so there's that.
But no, so we like that, and we'll buy like art when we're places if we find like a local artist that has some like cool stuff, and you know it's easy to bring back artwork, you know, in a tube or something. You just need to make sure you're not buying anything that's framed, because that can be a little bit tricky. We never want to like we never try to like send stuff back to ourselves if we don't have to. We like to bring it with us.
Yeah.
So we'll do artwork. We've done that in a few different places like Bruges and whatnot. We've done teas. We've done.
Hi, Neil and Kimberly. Great to have you on.
Hey, Neil. Hey, Kimberly. Travel and Tour.
Yes, they're from To Travel and Tour. So I just wanted to say a quick hello. We're talking about souvenirs now.
Yeah.
Also Gallivanting Gals is saying they try to seek out leather in Florence, which
Yes.
your
favorite,
that was
one of your favorite persons.
that was one of my top things I wanted to do when I went to Florence. Which there's so many great things to do in Florence, but specifically I wanted to go to the leather market and buy really high quality belts and a purse, which we ended up doing. But I have had that purse now for over 10 years and it's still fantastic. And so that's definitely, you know, if a place is known for something and you're going to know that you're going to use it kind of regularly, even back in the States or something, that's great. And wool in Ireland too. I ended up purchasing on the Aran Islands from like a, like local who's been knitting wool there for 50 years, a hat when I was there, and had like, it's like a cable knit wool hat. So I totally completely agree. Both of those things are really great souvenirs. And if there's great artisans in a place and great crafts that they're known for, it's certainly something to seek out.
Yeah, and so for anybody who, you know, looked at the thumbnail before this video or tuned into our last video, Eliz was wearing like a scarf as like a headband type thing. That scarf is from Como, which is Lake Como in Italy, which is well known for its silk merchants and whatnot that they brought back from China. So, you know, we always try to find like those little things that you can bring back that pack easily, are gonna be good, like, you know, fuel for the soul when we're not traveling that we get to use. And then
let us know if any of you all have other things like we're talking about that places are known for. Like I know Venice is known for glass work, and
or if you're, you know, if you go to like Morocco or something like that, you can buy like a number of different spices and maybe bring those back as well. Just make sure you know what your country's you know, stances on different things that you're allowed to bring back that are edibles. Yeah, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and going back, Lori Sims says she's a very small 5'4" and likes things like Zara and Forever 21. Yeah, totally. All of those places can have really good options, especially because 5'4", you probably have a little bit longer legs and arms than me, so you're gonna be able to wear those like smaller size clothes.
Lori loves her red leather backpack and wallet from Florence.
Yeah.
So one of the other places that's great for leather, so Florence is great, but also Argentina.
Yes.
So if you go to Argentina, make sure that you get some leather while you're there, and make sure you go to like a goods place that's not going to give you like the crap leather. We actually went to the same place that Samantha Brown had talked about in her show when she went there, to get kind of a custom leather jacket. And so like that was like my big thing. I was like, I really want like a custom leather jacket.
I think we went on our first full day there because we both were looking forward to it so much.
And we only had so many days in Buenos Aires, and we wanted to make sure that we got there and we had enough time for them to make it and give it to us. So we went in. She bought 2 leather jackets. I bought 1 leather jacket, and like they're perfectly fit to us for like our arm length and torsos and everything.
And
so
you can choose between different styles and colors.
She has like a purple leather jacket.
Yeah.
It's really
they gave us a tour of the factory itself, and we got to meet the people basically who put our leather jackets together. That is from a place called Uru, U-R-U, if you guys ever go to Buenos Aires and want to experience that. And they're really affordable too. Like, obviously in the States, just buying a really nice leather jacket's like, could be $500. We got it, especially because we bought 3, so we got even a discount for buying multiple. We got it for like, I don't know, I want to say no more than $150 per jacket, and they fit us like a glove.
Yeah,
so
they're great. Comfortable.
Yeah.
Gloves, actually, I have issues with gloves. I have small hands for a dude, and a lot of times, like, the fingers too long. That's what I should have done while we were in Argentina. I should have gotten custom gloves.
I'll just have to go back when Clarissa gets to, because I don't know if you guys all saw, but I interviewed our friend Clarissa, who was an expat in Buenos Aires, starting in February.
She made it 1 month before coronavirus hit, and then she had to come back.
So she'll be going back there once it's safe again. Oh, hey,
Mark.
Hey, Mark. Welcome. We've already kind of so just for Mark and for Neil and Kimberly, since you guys just joined, we've kind of already gone through our list of travel apps and tools that we use for planning and for navigating around when we are traveling. And so wanted to just let you guys know that if you want to circle back and add any in the comments later that we missed, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so the way we kind of broke it down, Mark, just so you know, we broke down to kind of like the planning type of apps, websites, etc. So Google Flights, Tripid, Hotels Tonight, things of that nature, Hotels.com, Hotwire, etc. Entertainment, so we did like Spotify, podcast, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, navigating Google Maps, City Metro, things of that nature. Maps.me. And then the last thing was kind of like around language.
And now somehow we've transitioned into souvenirs. So
we had a whole thing on road trips that happened at one point too, and then souvenirs. We talked about drones. We talked about our closet tour, which you missed again. So yeah, good times.
Derek's fashionable closet tour. So
I dressed up just for you, Mark, by the way.
Anywho, so glad Mark joined then, because otherwise it would be a complete waste, right? I'm just kidding. Oh, hey Thomas, great to have you on as well. Lots of new faces. So yeah, definitely watch the replay. We've gone over a lot of great tips. But I think making sure that we all weigh in on what our favorite kind of souvenirs are is where we're at right now.
Yeah, Mark, I know that you and Jocelyn like to bring back like artwork and things like that, which is pretty cool. I think is it Liam that did the painting in France. That's actually really good, by the way, Mark. I don't know if we've ever said that, but like that's a good painting. Like he did a good job.
I think it was Caleb.
Is it Caleb?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
They'll let us know.
You can let us know. But whoever it is,
we've bought a few pieces of art along the way.
We like maps too,
and we also
like old maps.
bought. So we went to a market in London last fall and met a guy who sells old maps there. And he even has an Instagram handle, so he's still selling through Instagram right now, even during the virus. But his stand is really fun to browse through.
What is he called?
It's called the Spitalfield Map Man.
Spitalfield.
And he's just a really great guy to talk to. And if you are into maps like I am, you can just like stand there and nerd out with him. And he loves, showing you his collection. And we ended up purchasing 3. And then he gave us for free with the purchase little tubes that you could roll up the map in and use it to take home. But we've been in scenarios where maybe they aren't equipped to give out tubes, and maybe it's like a street artist or something like that. And so we've been able to track down tubes along the way as well from like mailboxes, etc., or UPS store.
Yeah, if you need to do something like that.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, when we were in Washington D.C. for our 1-year anniversary, because good friends of ours got married in D.C. on our anniversary. So while we were out there, we celebrated by going to a really cool restaurant that like gave us the like big menus like from our dinner and stuff. And so we brought those back in like tubes from mailboxes, etc., with the plan to kind of get one of them framed and put it in our dining room.
Yeah.
Which we still have to do. The framing part is like a hassle that we need to get over, but it's a lot of fun.
Ronnie says he tries to get a team hat for the local city team that he's in. That's really cool. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of baseball caps, is what we call them here, for just different destinations. But especially if you're a big sports fan, that's a really great way to show. Especially if you want to wear it to a pub that evening and make friends. I bet that works really well too, even while you're
just
there.
Make sure you buy the right team, because
Yeah.
like a lot of cities have like 2 teams.
Yeah,
and
even Chicago, for example, we have like 2 baseball teams.
yeah, but I mean, nobody's gonna like hassle you too much if you wear a Cubs hat around Sox fans or something like that. But like in Europe, it can be like pretty like contentious. So like
Or South America.
in Sevilla, for instance, you have the Sevilla Football Club, but then you also have Calle Betis, and like they're like relative, like they'll heckle each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Sevilla is always going to probably beat Betis, but whatever. You don't always have to vote for the best team. Sometimes it's the best culture.
But that's a really great idea. Even if it's that you don't buy a hat, but you buy like a jersey or just something to remember your trip by and be able to support the local teams. And then
Can you hand me the globe?
this globe?
Yeah. So, where was that?
Derek's using a lot of props today, apparently.
Wait. So two travel and tour is saying that we have a globe sitting on our fireplace, and every individual country is made of a different gemstone. It's beautiful. I want something like a big one of those because they're pretty cool. But one year for Christmas, Eliz got me this little. Was it you that got me this?
No, I think it was my mom got you that.
Ruth got me this. So it's very cool, and it has like these are all different gemstones that make up like the different continents and countries and stuff. So it's a lot of fun, and this is from Stone Age gemstone globes.
Yeah.
So
But you
it's
can
pretty
find
cool.
those. You can find a lot of like much larger ones that actually have a stand and everything
Yeah.
online. They're beautiful. So that's cool that you guys have that.
Yeah. Okay, so Mark is saying, so do you use a separate webcam, or is this from your computer cam? I know you talked about it in another video, but I forgot, as I'm old and my brain doesn't work well. Well, I don't know, Mark. You know a lot of like random, like I'm always very impressed with your guys' live streams, like just how quickly you're able to like recall a bunch of the like specifics of the different locations that you guys are at. I can't do that. Although trivia,
Let's answer
we
the question.
did good on trivia. We used the webcam.
Yeah, so this is the webcam from my Mac. I was trying to experiment when we first started with using our DSLR, but we would have needed to invest in different tools in order to do that. So our Mac does a pretty good job, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think we're good. And then on Thursday is when we just started using an external microphone, which I mentioned right at the beginning of the stream, and so I'll say it again. We've had the
Rode?
No, it's like Arc Technica or something. But we've had the external microphone for a while. It just wasn't compatible with the Mac, annoyingly. So the reason why we haven't been using it the entire time is because I had to order a connector from Amazon, and it took forever to get here. So
yeah, and we would use our Sony as like our camera for this, but I don't know if you mentioned this, but you have to buy like a converter basically that's kind of like $150 or something like that, and it just wasn't worth the
So
price.
if you guys start telling like all of your friends to join, and we have a ton of people on, maybe we'll start using our Sony. But
slightly better quality.
I haven't invested in it just yet.
Because Mark, we use a similar camera to you. We have the Sony A6500. Which is a great camera. I love it. We bought it right before our honeymoon to South America to take some better pictures, because the camera that we had prior to that was like, what was it? Sony Nex5N, which was like super. It was old. It was older when we bought it back in like 2011. So, it was showing its age a little bit in terms of the quality of pictures that we could take. So, but But yeah, no, it's a great camera.
Yeah. So that's the tech gear. I'll try to start including links to our tech gear to even the converters and stuff in the description.
Which she'll link through Amazon. And if you use her Amazon link, she gets a part of the proceeds, which is
very,
helpful.
small commission.
Yep.
So
doesn't affect your price at all. You say
correct.
the same price. But if you use her link, she gets a little something out of it, which is helpful.
Yeah. So if anybody else is looking at upping their live stream game, I can totally add some of those details. I also promised that once this video goes back live, I'm going to add all the podcasts that we mentioned earlier, links to those. So I'll try to start being a little bit more diligent about during, afterwards, once the replay is available, to add what we've talked about in here. Cool. What else? So we were okay. So Mark Finley's saying, I have an American League All-Star jersey that I am so tempted to wear to Europe. Bad idea for a 6'8", 300-pound guy to wear an American across the chest. That's a good question. I tend not to wear anything that makes it scream I'm an American when I'm in Europe generally.
Yeah.
And you'll see people not doing that. Like, you'll see a lot of people wearing, like, college sweatshirts and stuff like that. And, like, we actually really enjoy, because we both went to Indiana University, if we see somebody wearing an Indiana sweatshirt abroad, we're like, go Hoosiers, and stuff like that. Yeah. But, like, we wouldn't necessarily wear that ourselves because we like to blend in a little bit more with the locals, just to avoid being targeted for pickpocketing or something like that. So
yeah, that's the bigger thing, is like not wanting to be targeted for anything specifically. So we try to blend in as much as possible.
Yeah.
That said, teach their own. You want to be comfortable when you're traveling, and if you're most comfortable in like a jersey or something like that, that's fine. Just understand that you might get some weird looks,
or you might just have people who are in the business of selling things to tourists, whether or not it's like it might be a completely legitimate business, somebody who's trying to like sell a tour to you or something. You might just be spoken to a little bit more than if you were looking a little bit more local.
Mark's like, I was joking, guys. I was joking. I don't think I would do that.
What is he joking about? Sorry, I missed it.
Wearing the American shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Just joking.
Oh, okay.
But, we're going to answer the question.
But I think that's an important thing, because a lot of people, that's really, like, what they own.
Yeah.
And especially when we were in college, almost everything that I ever wore was, like, my sorority T-shirts, Indiana University T-shirts, that sort of thing. So I was hard-pressed to be able to find clothes without logos on them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that... Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, in Europe, so Nick Peterson, hey Nick, is saying that I find it funny how quick people in Europe can pick up American accents. I kept the tone of my voice down, but they would always tell in a snap. Yeah, I mean, you also have to think about the fact that a lot of people all over the world kind of consume our content, our entertainment content. So they're used to hearing American accents in movies and TV shows and things like that. So, Nick, that's probably why people can pick up pretty quickly, like, oh, that's an American.
Yeah.
Although I will say that, Canadians, there's a lot of Canadian accents that sound very similar to an American accent.
Yeah.
So Canadians are sometimes like, no, I'm Canadian.
That's kind of why, like, sometimes
she likes to sometimes tell people she's Canadian.
Yeah, well, that's only if they're being rude to me. So that actually only happened once when I was in college. A really drunk person came up and was like, "Oh, an American," and I was like, "I'm Canadian. Go away." And they did. Which I'm not, by the way. I am American. I just wanted them to go away. So
America.
Then I was gonna say, like, that's why whenever I watch somebody from like South Africa, for example, I can never figure out what their accent is. If all of a sudden I hear it on TV or something, and I'll literally be like waiting for them to tell me, because I never hear it.
It's funny,
and so I don't recognize it. But if you
hear it, and you're like, there's something.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are,
If
but
we
there's
heard the accent a lot, then it would be easier to pinpoint where they're from.
Yeah. I'm like, are they from like Australia, New Zealand? Are they Irish? Like, what are they?
Malcolm's saying, so Malcolm's from New Zealand, and he's saying, I get US Australian a lot, and totally.
Yeah.
And I'm probably guilty of that as well. I think I've kind of waited in certain scenarios where I've heard a New Zealand accent or Australian accent and be like, I just want to make sure that they tell me first what they are without me assuming. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so Ruth is mentioning that, you know, when your grandfather went to Amsterdam and spoke Dutch, but with an American accent, it kind of freaked out people.
Yeah.
Because they're like, why do you know Dutch?
Yeah.
So, well, he grew up in
for
Amsterdam.
everybody's history, my grandfather was born in America, but raised in the Netherlands to an American mother and Dutch father. And he spent most of, I think, from age like 2 to 29, basically in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And then like I've said to my mom before, I'm sure when he came to America, people were like, what accent is this? And then when he finally went back to the Netherlands in the 80s, I think they were like, wait, how do you speak Dutch but you now sound American? Because he hadn't been back. I mean, he'd been living in America at
like
that point
40
for like
years.
40 years. So it's funny when somebody's a dual citizen like that. Bonnie's saying, I've heard some Americans wear Canadian flags. I have not heard that. I mean, maybe if they're in a place where they're really worried about being targeted. I've never seen that abroad. I haven't.
Yeah. And really, I mean,
That's a really protectionist thing to do, I suppose.
Yeah, and really it's just around like making sure like when you're just out walking about, you're not getting hassled, like, because we've never had major issues with it, right? So like it's really more about, you know,
Yeah.
like in Spain there's, I don't like saying this, but like there's like gypsies and stuff, like, right, and they'll like try to hand you like stuff,
The
and
Roma
like if you,
people.
the Roma people, if they hand you like a sprig of like rosemary and then like they're like, now give me money, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
But if you're wearing something like that, they're probably more likely to try to, because they're like, stupid tourist.
Definitely a tourist,
I'll take
yeah.
it. And so like when she came to visit me in Spain, like that happened to her. Like she took the rosemary, and I'm like, no, put it down. I'm like, walk away.
It literally slapped my hand.
I'm like, stop it. And the same thing with like, you know, the survey thing, where it's like kids will come up to you and they'll be like, hey, will you sign our like petition? It's for like education or something like that, and then you sign it, and then they're like, oh, and now can you donate? And they'll like try to get you to donate money, and it's all a scam, like,
Yeah.
I think. So again, it's one of those things where like, stop it, like, oh god, they're like targeting us because like they know that we're like college students from America.
So Neil is saying from To Travel and Tour, my English is American but with a Dutch accent. For some reason, though, many people here in the U.S. think I'm Russian. That's interesting. Maybe they're just not as used to the Dutch accents.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't hear it as much here in the States, especially in more rural areas.
Yeah, because it has like a softer, it's not like as harsh as the German accent is. And it has like softer A's and things like that, I feel, when I have spoken
What's
to a lot
cool
of my...
about Dutch people and German people?
Can't let me Spanish talking?
Yes, I can let you. I apologize.
Thank you.
Love you.
But you know, when I've spoken to a lot of people like working with like the Dutch, there is like I don't know if it's like softer vowels or what it is, that I can kind of understand why some people might think, might think Russian.
Yeah, I don't know. But what I was going to say is what's really cool about Dutch and German people is they do learn English from in school, and so they speak really, really good English when you go there for the most part.
Yeah, in like Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, you don't really have issues with people not knowing English. Everybody does, pretty much.
Yeah, when we were in Amsterdam last month, yeah, oh my gosh, we would walk up and
Feels
somebody
like
and
ages.
say, "Do you speak English?" And they're like, "Yes, of course."
Almost as if we're insulting them
Yeah.
by asking them, like, why would I not?
Yeah, but I like making sure and asking in advance. And then, Opa caused a lot of confusion in the U.S. with his Dutch accent. Especially I'm sure it being kind of German-esque right after World War II. And then Germany Travel Personal Guide, Darian says, I don't wear any of my gator gear in Germany. I don't want to stand out as I'm attempting to blend in. Yeah, totally.
That's funny.
And then Waltersfeld says, they will try to give stuff to our kids and get them to give them money. And just so everybody knows, their kids are not like older teenagers. Like, I mean, it's like younger kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. And Mark says, I tell them off and they all get mad and say I owe them money. Had to rip some of those guys off of some of my students. So Mark's done a few college age student tours abroad as well. Yeah, they can be very aggressive. Especially in certain destinations. So, we're not trying to scare anyone.
No.
Like
It's just about having
safe. It's just making sure that you have awareness.
Yeah. Just understand kind of like what some of those issues might be before you get there, so you can kind of avoid some of that headache. And like,
we find that occurs more in like southern European countries than northern European countries too, just geographically speaking. And then Darian is again saying, yeah, that drives me nuts. Yeah, it's especially if they're targeting kids. That's really a shame.
Yeah, so Mark is telling Darian that he just shouldn't wear gator stuff anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, so Malcolm is saying, the beggars in Europe can be a bit of a pain. Yeah, and it's not just that. It's also like, something that actually Mark has talked about in his video around Amsterdam is that the drunks in Amsterdam can be pretty aggressive and a bit of a pain in the ass, pain in the butt, sorry. So really, it's something to think about and, just always be aware of. Like for me, like I do like sunrise photography and a lot of times when we travel, so walking around Amsterdam around sunrise, there might still be people out from the night before, and they're probably a little worse for wear and might be slightly belligerent. So you kind of need to be careful and make sure that you're kind of aware of where you are, especially if you have like expensive gear like a camera out with you. So I always find it to be I don't have my headphones in listening to music while I'm out doing that because if I'm by myself, I want to make sure I'm always being safe, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, always trying to like kind of know what's going on around you is super important.
And Galva and Tingels are saying Spain and Italy have been the worst for us for the gypsies and the petitions, and we would agree from our experience as well. So just something to keep in mind if you're going to one of those places. Yeah, so there's actually Mark from Walter's World has several really good videos just about avoiding scams while you're traveling, and it's not just in Europe. There's possibilities of like if you're in markets and like even North America and South America, you can just make sure to have your wits about you. Always keep awareness, of your surroundings, and yeah, I mean that's just part of understanding the locals, I suppose.
I do love that Bonnie says, when I hear a European accent that I can't place, it's usually Dutch. That's pretty funny.
I also think there's differences in the Dutch accent, even though it's such a small country. Like if somebody's from Maastricht, it's a little bit different than like if they're from Amsterdam.
Well, because even though the Netherlands is a small country, there's a real difference between the north of the Netherlands and the south. The south, and culturally they're pretty different as well, because like the north is more Protestant and the south is a little bit more Catholic, and just kind of has a little bit more of that more like Belgian type of culture than like the north does with the industrial Protestant type more Catholic stuff. But Eindhoven in the south is a cool place to visit if anybody has a chance and whatnot. So
like Derek was mentioning now hours ago about podcasts is if you have any interest in just learning about the Netherlands, he had a great podcast recommendation that we'll include in the description after this.
Yeah, actually, for our Dutch friend, so History of the Netherlands it's a fun podcast to check out that kind of goes through all the history that I really enjoy. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing.
And then Lori Sims is saying, I always walk around like I belong and say no and keep going. I do that too, especially in markets.
It's kind of like in New York and stuff. You just kind of like don't make eye contact, keep
Yeah.
walking, and ignore it. And you just have to have that kind of mentality. It's like somebody who stops you, like, just don't engage, just keep going.
Yeah. Gallivanting gals, any issues with that stuff? Oh, and that was to Malcolm. So Malcolm is saying that the odd one in Auckland, but not down here in Christchurch. Okay, that is good to know. I agree.
Yeah. But in the U.S., right? So like we don't have the Roma and stuff here as much. There is some. There is some in the U.S. But really, what it is here a little bit more is on the homeless population. So somebody, if you think about where they tend to be more strong or more more aggressive. I find California actually has some fairly aggressive homeless people, especially in like San Francisco and whatnot. So just
in the tourist areas.
It's something to think about and like understand like where you are and be very aware of your surroundings with that stuff. Because they can be pretty aggressive over there. LA, it's a little bit more like there's like neighborhoods of it. So like Skid Row in LA is like all homeless people. Not a place to like go hang out as a tourist, and you should avoid that area. So it's about like knowing all that kind of stuff and just understanding it. I never saw really any in San Diego, although San Diego is beautiful, by the way. Just want to put that out there.
It is beautiful. And gallivanting gals and so Malcolm was saying if it's free, then there's probably a catch. Gallivanting gals saying especially if they're giving you stuff on the Las Vegas Strip, and that's a whole other ball game. Is the Las Vegas Strip? You're gonna be handed like promotions for attending
escorts and like call girls.
Well, Derek gets handed. I do not get handed those things, but
and I never take them. Yeah, I'm like, no, get out of here.
Everybody's just saying no. And then, but just like restaurant openings, like Vegas is one of the few places that, if they're saying like, oh, restaurant opening or free tickets to a comedy thing and you are on a budget, you might want to at least like take the thing and keep walking. Like if they start to engage you, just be like, I gotta go, but I'll take your flyer. Yeah. Because they do have a lot of people kind of handing out those promotional things on the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah. So to travel and tourists talking about, so if you go far south in southeast Netherlands, the dialect, the spoken can either have more French or German influences depending on where you are.
Yeah.
Mark is agreeing that San Diego is amazing, and Lori says that she lives in SoCal, and there are pockets of the state that I won't drive or go to. I assume because of homeless population. Derek knows all the things they give out in Vegas. Yes, I do, Mark.
No, he does not. And then Gallivanting Gals says we have found them to be indiscriminate in Vegas. I think we've really gone to Vegas mostly during conferences and specifically tech conferences. So it has definitely leaned male, which is why I think they just aren't handing me stuff. But I also, like we were talking about, I give my like don't mess with me vibe. So people don't mess with me. She has the
Jocelyn vibe.
Yeah.
They're both just like.
Yeah, I kind of give off I'm here to. I know where I'm going. Don't talk.
She's more world wise than she was back in college.
No, we usually go to CES every January, so really, that's the only time as adults that we've been to.
Although I did go to Vegas in high school, and they were handing me stuff that I shouldn't have been handed, but whatever. So Eric Brown is saying that Montreal has some really aggressive homeless as well, so something to think about. And we don't want to get too much into like homeless or the negative stuff, but it's like just understanding before you go somewhere, what you might be, some of the downsides, so you can kind of try to avoid it is important.
Yeah. Poor innocent high school Derek, yeah. So before, Mark Walters was asking when we're going to put out our Indiana travel video series. Well, we cannot travel to Indiana right now. But we do have a vlog from when we went to Bloomington on my channel last May or June is when I put it out. Bloomington, Indiana,
Yep.
not Illinois. And so that one gives some local tips about places to go around that area. And then also I have a corresponding blog post that lists them all. And then we really want to be able to do more with Indiana, but it's not top of our road trip list when things do start opening up. We'll probably,
Because for those who don't know, the UP.
the UP is of course the top.
I mean,
Everybody's
come on.
top.
Duh. And
What
for
I-
those who don't know, the UP is the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah. I would like to go to the UP though if the Canadian-American border actually opens up, so that way we would have the option of going into Canada, but it's not going to be a make or break probably on that. Yeah, heck yeah, the UP. We're going to make that collab video.
Yeah, so
But hopefully it'll open up this summer, at least at some point, for us all to take some road trips, because I know all the people that are still in this chat are probably pretty antsy about travel, that's for sure.
yeah, so Gallivanting Gals is saying, did I mention that we're thinking of doing a covered bridge vlog?
Oh no, that's
So
really cool.
So for those who don't know, Indiana has a long history of like covered bridges.
Yeah, in
and
the
they
southern
do,
part.
Yeah. So there's a lot of covered bridges in Indiana. They're pretty cool. Go check them out if you're ever around in those areas. They're slightly more rural, typically, so you probably won't find a lot of them around Indianapolis. I think there's a few south of Indy that you can get to pretty easily.
Yeah.
And definitely worth seeing. They're just pretty.
So if Indiana's driving distance,
There's a covered bridge festival, I think, around Indianapolis every year.
yeah, Eric Zacarias, hello. That is Derek's father. And this is his first time saying hello on this chat today.
Hi,
So,
Dad.
hello. He is saying Derek has captured some Hidden Valley Lake, Indiana photos, and that is indeed true. And that area is in the southeastern part of Indiana, very close to Cincinnati. And specifically, the Hidden Valley Lake area has like a few hiking trails, and of course the lake, and it's very close to the Ohio River. So there's some cool places to check out in that spot too.
So Rockville, Indiana, is home to the Covered Bridge Festival in Indiana. So if you are looking for it, that is west of Indianapolis, closer to the Illinois border. So every year they do a Covered Bridge Festival there, and that's a really cool. That's a really cool spot. So check it out.
And
It's north of Terre Haute.
that's an excellent question, Mark Walters. There is no relation to the salad dressing, to my knowledge, but I'll have to have Eric Zacarias weigh in to confirm.
That's funny. Yeah, no, so like my parents live on like a lake, or live near a lake, and you know, it has some pretty like sunrises and stuff. So I'll go out with my camera and I'll be like, screw it, I'm gonna go take a picture.
Yeah, but we've also researched different hiking trails in that area. We've done some bike rides along the Ohio River in the neighboring town, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. So it's a cool spot, but like we've mentioned before, we recommend like Brown County State Park in Indiana for road trips, and neighboring Lake Monroe in that area if you're really into kind of like lake life.
That's funny. So Gallivanting Gals, okay, so weird. One of my high school BFFs' married name is Zacarias, and her husband is Eric. They live in Boulder. That would be funny if we found out that you're best friends with my mom. Yeah, no, that's funny.
Is it spelled the same way too? That would be so funny.
Yeah, Eric Zacarias is a weird combination of names.
Yeah, because Zacarias is a Hispanic last name, but it can be spelled differently if it's Greek or if it's
it can be Greek,
Jewish.
it can be German, Jewish, but like when it's German, there's an H. When it's Greek, I think there's a U in there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, same spelling.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. Well, now 2 Eric Zachariases and a Derek Zacharias have been spoken about on this chat.
Cool. So, all right, so Malcolm is saying we have in New Zealand, in the last few years, gotten rid of our road and rail bridges. Yes, cars and trains share a bridge deck. Interesting.
Cool.
Wait.
I love bridges. I really want to go to West Virginia when things are a little bit more safe to drive and go to the New River Gorge State Park, and they have a viaduct that is also a bridge up there that for his photography I think will be phenomenal, but also just for hiking and enjoying nature. I'm really looking forward to that this summer, knock on wood, as a road trip spot. So
yeah, we like when I go places, right? Like I'm all about, what's the pretty thing for me to photograph. Like I'll go to a museum, I'll do that kind of stuff if I have to. But for me, I really want to go capture sunrise, sunset on every trip, every day of the trip if I can. Like on our honeymoon, I woke up every single morning of those 3.5 weeks, except for when I had food poisoning. I woke up every other morning for the sunrise, and I'll say that I never regretted it. I'd leave her in bed. I'd be like, if I don't come back, call the police. And then I'd go off and I'd do the sunrise and I'd come back, and it's awesome.
To Travel and Tour is saying they would love to see the Golden Gate Bridge in person one day.
Yeah.
So we've been blessed to be able to do that. There's actually a hotel we were going to stay in last November when we went out there. We ended up not staying there last minute for different reasons. But it was called Cavallo Point, and it's right on the other side into Marin County, like right next to the Golden Gate Bridge. And so if you're there to enjoy the view of the bridge and take photos and stuff like that, it's a higher end hotel, and if you...
We liked it because it would have been walking distance to the bridge, so I could have woken up early and just literally left the hotel with my gear, walked over probably maybe less than a mile, and gotten some shots.
Yeah.
But the one thing about the Golden Gate Bridge to think about if you're going to go do photography there is that the fog can be pretty heavy in San Francisco, so making sure that maybe if you have multiple days in San Francisco, that might be nice, because then you can kind of play it by ear on when the weather's going to work out for you and not be as foggy.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. So.
Bye, gallivanting gals. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for staying on.
We'll definitely talk to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then with the bridge too, you have to be mindful of the weather. But if you are planning on crossing the bridge, just remember how big it is.
Yeah.
So you don't want to get halfway across the bridge, and this is the same with the Brooklyn Bridge. You don't want to get halfway across the bridge and be like, I'm tuckered out, because there's no way off. You gotta get yourself back. So just planning out that whole excursion is going to be important. And
Malcolm, Derek, if you're quick, you could get a photo of the sunrise here this morning. Not that quick, Malcolm.
Malcolm, we are so pleased and blessed to have you tune in, because I know it's super early in the morning for you. And happy Monday, by the way.
Yeah. Wait, were you talking about walking the bridge?
Yeah, well, they were talking about it. And then Lorison says you can walk the Golden Gate Bridge in December. It has great weather.
Interesting.
I don't know about if she's joking or not. We were there in November, and it seemed like the weather could be kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the not the Golden Gate. I've never walked the Golden Gate Bridge. Having walked the Brooklyn Bridge multiple times, I feel like every time I do it, I get caught in the rain. Halfway across, I'm trying to hide underneath some awning thing, trying to keep out of the rain. So I don't know. I had bad luck with that, but
yeah, it's so fun how bridges can be iconic in different places around the world. I loved visiting Tower Bridge in London, and there's even a museum in Tower Bridge that you can go learn about the construction of it. And so
you can go to the top in Tower Bridge, right?
Yeah, and then in Sydney, I know that you can kind of climb up the bridge in Sydney and stuff like that in Australia. So I love that they've made those types of bridges to be kind of symbols of cities and really cool bucket list destinations in themselves. Oh, hey, Terry Finley. So she's saying Mark got the Le Mans warrant.
So Mark is warming up the car.
Oh.
So she jumped on.
Oh, nice.
The Le Mans.
Yeah, he's got to go take his muscle car out for a spin, I heard.
Yeah. So to Travel on Tour is saying, if I'm looking for a unique sunrise sunset, experience, you should go on a cruise.
There you go.
Which I've been on a cruise before, but that was back in college, and I was not waking up for sunrise back in college. I was waking up around noon, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be really cool to be able to take a picture of the sunrise on the horizon. We've done that at sunset when we were at. We did a day trip when we were in Vancouver to Victoria on Vancouver Island, and the ferry ride back into Vancouver, we were able to take really pretty photos at sunset in the Sound. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Terry's saying cruises are fun. Mark's the only one who wakes up that early when we are on cruises. Yeah, I mean, most cruises I think have some really great nighttime.
Well, I mean, they have clubs
activities.
And comedy clubs. They've got like dance clubs. There's a ton of stuff on cruises to do.
Your dad Eric is saying the UP
Mackinac Island.
Mackinac? Did I? No.
It's Mackinac.
Yeah, Mackinac Island Bridge is fun. That one would be interesting because I believe you can't bring cars onto that island. I haven't actually been. So yeah, that would be a cool one to go check out, especially if we're heading up in the UP direction. Bye, Mark. Thanks so much for joining.
I do want to read that, though. Thank you, Eliz and Derek. I have to go to work, so I don't have a cool reason to take off like Mark in a sweet ride.
Well, go earn that dough. Yeah. That's cool. We're probably going to wrap up here soon, too, because we've been talking now for 2.5 hours. But it's been so fun just to have everybody on. I know.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for joining.
I know we said this on Thursday, but we really look forward to these chats so much. We have so much fun being able to talk to everybody, twice a week, and we're going to continue that through May. So we, in Illinois at least, our quarantine is not ending until at minimum May 31st. So we're going to be doing our twice a week schedule throughout next month as well. Yep. So hopefully you guys can keep joining us and keeping us company and talking about travel while we're stuck inside.
Yeah, and for those who don't remember, but tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, Gallivanting Gals will have their second live feed. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
And then the Walters are keeping their wine and Whiskey Wednesday live feeds.
Yep. So we'll be on that as well, and then we'll have our next live feed on Thursday. When we do our Thirsty Thursday live feed.
Which we not called it.
I drink as much wine as she'll let me. But it was great chatting with everybody, and I hope everybody has a great rest of their weekend, a great Sunday. It's beautiful out. We'll probably go for a walk here now. And,
that's true. It is like the first nice weather day here. So Derek and I think, owe ourselves a walk outside because we haven't been able to do that, and a little bit of lunch. Hopefully you guys have been eating lunch as we've been talking to you.
You didn't touch your banana bread.
If it's Malcolm, hopefully you've been eating breakfast. I don't know, it might be too early for breakfast there. And then, Two Travel and Tour, you're welcome to join one of their live streams Wednesday at 4 p.m. Yeah, we can give that a go as well. I have watched several of yours back, but I haven't been able to join live yet, so I apologize for that, but we'll try to join live this week. We really appreciate you guys coming on. Malcolm's about to have breakfast. Makes sense.
Well, Malcolm, we really appreciate you, and thank you very much for joining us.
And thanks, everybody, for joining. Great questions, great comments. We really loved hearing what works for you all for travel apps and, tools that you use for planning and for when you're out and about. So, especially as we're all kind of sitting here planning and getting ideas for our next trips whenever we can take them. I think this is a great combo.
Or as they say in the UP, up in a boot.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know what they sound
we
like
don't know. Does anybody know? Michael Mond would probably be the only one, but he dropped off a little while ago. He's in Minnesota. But thanks everybody for joining. Let's all keep in touch and hopefully see you back on Thursday night.
Yep.
Cheers. Bye. Oh, wow, this is great. 20 likes, too. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Have a good Sunday.